Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe, episode 98. We are officially 2 episodes away from the big 100, which I'm super excited about. But this one in particular is also a big one. I'm welcoming back Andrew Rice to the show. Haven't had him on this podcast since I believe the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals ended. But we've obviously been doing a lot of work for On the Banks and on our The Bells Must Ring podcast every week, which is gonna only pick up when the season starts in a couple weeks. 9 days away from Rutgers kickoff. But I've been wanting to, yeah, very exciting time. I've been wanting to do I'm a big college football fan in general. I'd probably say like that much more even than like college basketball if we're talking about nationally. Like I'll watch any game. Like I'll watch the FCS, I'll watch Group of Five. I'll definitely watch like the Power Five games, Power Four games, like you name them. So I mean, especially the big dogs. But with that in mind, I mean, I did want to preview college football from like a more national perspective. Obviously, me and you are both Rutgers fans, alumni now. We cover the team for On the Banks. But we also like follow the Big Ten in particular. So I'm definitely, wanted to have you on for that. And then as well as the other Power Four conferences, I think there's just a lot going on with the expanded playoff. I mean, the SEC, versus the Big Ten, that's always a good conversation to have. The ACC, the Big 12. I mean, we maybe can even talk about some like Group of Five contenders in there. This is going to be pretty comprehensive. So not exactly sure what the timeline's going to look like, but we're doing it once. So I might as well do it once and well. Yeah, I mean, do you have any other like thoughts, I guess, before we start on the Big Ten?
Well, as you mentioned before, excited to get back, excited back into the swing of things. I think it's probably what Maction that kicks us off for the
No, it's
2025
week
season.
zero, starting with those like weird non-conference matchups. But this year we have a pretty good one. The Ireland game is Kansas State versus Iowa State. I was gonna say Ohio State, but so that's gonna be the first game. They're both ranked. I think Kansas State's ranked 17th. Ohio State's ranked 3, but we'll get to that. Iowa State's ranked 22nd. Um, yeah, I mean it's Farmageddon in Ireland. I mean those Ireland games have been kind of pretty good in the last couple of years. We had Georgia Tech, Florida State last year.
That's
This
when
year,
Florida State
yeah.
got exposed for what they were. Somebody probably pulled back the mask and saw what was behind the
That
curtain.
was just nuts because they went from 13-0 to like what 2-10, and but even after the Georgia Tech, like that looked like a top 10 upset, and it wasn't until later until we found out just how bad Florida State was. I mean, they lost to Memphis, they lost like almost all their ACC games. I mean, they were just like a horrific team last year. Like I don't know how you go from like one of the best to one of the worst, but I guess putting in DJ Uiagalelei in quarterback, like I think that was one of the major problems. Like he was just like a train wreck. Yeah, I mean, certainly not Jordan Travis under center. So I remember all the like the LinkedIn get a job like posts about like DJ, like poor thing. But anyway, I
DJ, you
mean,
need to get a job.
yeah, Florida State was like a disaster. But that was where the season started in Ireland. This year I think we're getting an even better matchup than last year. It could come down to the final wire like down to the wire once again. It's a game that I think Rutgers fans were probably familiar with the opponents. I mean, Kansas State, we saw them in the Rate Bowl. They were like slightly better than Rutgers, which I guess goes to show like the relativity between the Big Ten, Big 12. But Kansas State has a lot of firepower. They have Dylan Edwards coming back who had 196 yards in our bowl game. They have Avery Johnson coming back who's a true dual threat. Good arm, good legs. Iowa State beat Iowa last year, so it's like that's going to be another one for Rutgers fans to watch in terms of how good Iowa is against Iowa State. That game happens week 2. I've always missed it. I really want to watch it this year, and I probably am going to end up writing about that game for the opponent scouting series to look at how good Iowa might be. So Iowa State, Kansas State, it's going to be an exciting game. 2 Big 12 teams that Big Ten fans might have some familiarity with, and 2 of the best teams in the conference, as we'll get to towards the end. I think both of them are probably going to be in the they're probably going to be 2 of the favorites to win that conference. So I mean, I think that's a terrific start. I mean, I guess since we're already starting with week 0, I was going to have that at the bottom, but I mean, we might as well just move that to the top. Just I mean, other than that, I mean, there's always like that one, like they often have like the FCS game in week 0 against. They always like end up playing the Mountain West games in there because I think any team who plays Hawaii gets like an extra bye week or something. So it always ends up being teams around that conference. So this year, I mean, Hawaii themselves, They host Stanford, which I think Hawaii might be slightly favored in, or like Stanford's not really a great team, but it might make for like a competitive matchup on the island. Fresno State, it's always been a pretty good Mountain West team. They've been able to pull some upsets. I think they recently beat Purdue in their season opener a few years ago. So they're playing Kansas, who's also like kind of a middle of the pack team, was also getting a bit better. Kansas has been like sneaky good, and Fresno State's also been sneaky good as a Mountain West team. So that should be an interesting game. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like almost like how Rutgers, Ohio is like a good MAC team versus like kind of an up and coming Big Ten team. It's like a similar vibe to that, I would say, maybe even a little bit better. But like those are like the games I would watch. I mean, the other ones are like kind of FCS games. But I mean, hey, it's week 0 in college football. Another one, Sam Houston, Western Kentucky. I mean, like whatever you get week 0. I mean, there's only 5 games, but I would say definitely Iowa State, Kansas State's one to watch. Fresno State, Kansas is also pretty good. Stanford, Hawaii could end up being a pretty competitive game that can go either way. I think. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a really good slate to get us kicked off.
Well, the most entertaining football is the group of 6, I guess, group of
Group of
6
six, yeah.
conferences. That
Mm-hmm.
is the most entertaining form of football because I don't know. I feel like with the group of 6, there's less just like straight domination from a couple teams. Like, unfortunately, with the Big Ten, you know who the contenders are, you know who the pretenders are, and you know who the never was are. With the SEC, you know who the contenders are, you know who the pretenders are, and you know who the never was and never going to be are.
Right. Right.
But at least with these like lower schools, there is no con- there is contenders, but
Yeah.
there's no
There's no like lockdown.
there's
Like,
no Ohio State, there's no Michigan, there's no Alabama, there's no
yeah,
LSU.
that's true. There's no
There's
like
not.
teams that are gonna absolutely blow everyone else off the water, and nobody else has a chance. It's more like middle tier, like teams can make their way up. I mean, they're still contenders, and obviously, like when the G5, they send a team into the playoff, or the G6, like they send a team to the playoff. We could talk about that too, but I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more like parity, I guess. Like that's why Maction is always so exciting on like a Tuesday, or Mountain West football is exciting. I mean, they've been pretty good. The American has had some good teams. Like, I guess, yeah. I mean, speaking about, why don't I just move the whole bottom of this outline to the top? Because like I feel like we want to like I thought we were gonna end with this, but I mean like maybe we could just start with it. Looking at the group of 5 contenders, and well, Notre Dame's an independent. I mean, they might, be in the overall playoff picture. So maybe I'll move them back over to the bottom, but or with the ACC or something. I don't know. I'll move that to the bottom because the Big 12 is very vague to me, and I'm interested in your thoughts on that. But before we get to that, yeah, G5. I mean, like I mentioned, Mountain West, American. Those are like typically the better conferences in that bunch. At least the top teams in there. Tulane's obviously pretty good. I mean, they have a week 1 home game against Northwestern that they're actually the favorite in by about a touchdown. And they got Jake Retzlaff from BYU on their team now. So, I mean, I think they're probably going to win that game. I mean, there's no guarantees. I mean, Northwestern, as bad as they were, are like still a Power 4 team. We've seen that happen where like, one of the worst ones ends up still beating a group of 5 team. But I mean, I think Tulane's probably going to win that game. I
Like
think,
Purdue.
yeah, exactly. I think Boise State is going to be still pretty good, although they don't have Ashton Genty. Memphis has always been like pretty good. The Liberty plays a really soft schedule on the COSA, and they've, I guess, been good. But then we saw what happened when they made that game against Oregon. Like they got like devoured. So they might be able to do something if they win the table. I mean, James Madison, the Sun Belt's also one of the better ones. Like they have Appalachian State, some of these other programs. Like James Madison's been pretty good. Rutgers picked up a couple of transfers out of there actually, so including Eric O'Neill and I believe someone else, like Daryl D. Ngoe, I
Doug
believe.
Blue Eli, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Was
the name, I
Wait, let
think.
me just check that because he might have been South Florida too.
Yeah, yeah. I think it might be the other guy.
No, he was South Florida.
Yeah. See, that's another. Yeah. I think it was Daryl D. Ngoe, like the other defensive tackle. Who also came from
Yeah, you're right. Dinigoe.
Dinagoe. So that's, yeah, with Eric O'Neill. Obviously, Indiana ended up getting a lot of their transfers with Kirk Cignetti going over there. Um, Yeah, I mean, like, and the Navy, Army, I mean, they were both pretty good. Like independents, or like not independents, they're in the American too, but service academies, they had good records. I don't know how that exactly compares because their stuff offense is a little different, but they were, I think, at some points borderline ranked. Yeah, I mean, stuff like
No,
that.
they were
So
ranked,
they
Navy and Army.
were.
Both
Yeah,
of
I
them
think
were.
both of them were ranked at some point last season. James Madison's an interesting one, but I don't know. I feel like Boise State, Memphis, Tulane, probably at the top. Toledo's was a really good team in the MAC, but there's a few of those, like Ohio, Miami, Ohio, we'll see this season. Toledo ended up beating Mississippi State, which was one of the few Power Four wins by a MAC team. And then South Florida, we talked about. I mean, they were very close to pulling. Even though Alabama ended up running the score up on them, they played Alabama tough like 2 years in a row, which was like the shocking part. I mean, they play Florida, Miami. I don't know. I feel like they might be a team to make some noise. Which is gonna shift me over to my next point. Because week one is just like, I mean, I think it's like one of the best slates we've ever seen. But on top of all the games that like, I've been writing about, we've been talking about, like, there's some good like sleepers on here too, like Boise State, USF. It could be like a group of five.
That
Like,
could be a good one.
that could be
Yeah,
a very good
USF
one.
is no slouch.
They're no slouch, and Boise State coming off the playoff appearance, Mountain West Championship. They're ranked 25. They still have like Maddox Matson, some of their other best players from last year. But Boise State also ends up going to Notre Dame this year. I mean, I think that could be a really interesting team. That could still be one of the top at the Mountain West. UNLV has been very, very good also. And our game, Ohio Rutgers, I feel like that has some sleeper potential. That's not going to be like a complete cakewalk, I don't think either. I think that could be an interesting one worth watching on Thursday, even if you're not a Rutgers fan or Ohio fan. Nebraska taking on
No, but
Cincinnati.
I don't think that game is going to be particularly close either.
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
think it's going to
we
be
already
like
talked about
we
this or
did.
started to talk about this. Um, if I think Rutgers wins by two
I think by
scores,
double digits, yeah.
easy.
Yeah, I think 14, because I wrote a whole article about how Ohio lost a lot of transfers or like, on their O-line, D-line, they're starting fresh faces. I just don't think that's a good recipe for success against like Rutgers in particular, Big Ten team that has, I mean, their offensive line, there's a lot of continuity. Defensive line, Rutgers brings in like some of the top G5 transfers, including Ohio's Bradley Weaver. So I think they have a mismatch on the trenches, which I didn't see before, which is why I was thinking, okay, yeah. I mean, if this was last year's Ohio team that went 11-3, like I think very well it could have been potentially a game. Like I still think Rutgers would have won, but I think it could have been like that 10.5 point line makes sense, like where like Ohio could scare them. But I don't think this Ohio team with all the pieces that they lost, especially on the trenches, is really going to be able to stack up. That being said, I mean, yeah, it's like a step up from where like our group of five opponents usually are, because we ended up, we played teams like Temple and Akron who are like bottom feeders in those conferences. Now we're playing a top feeder. It's still, I don't think Rutgers should have a problem with that, because I mean, I guess number one, trench advantage. Number two, I mean, like they're still like the better team anyway. So it's just like, and they're adding weapons. Like I feel like it's going to be a bit much, because Rutgers offense, I think, is going to be able to, they're going to be able to get
They're
going
going
with,
to be different this year. They're going to
yeah,
be a
it's
lot
not the
more
same.
explosive.
It's not the same struggling Rutgers offense that if it was that team, then like, yeah, and then it would be an ugly game. Like Rutgers would probably still win, but it would be very ugly because they basically slow down Ohio enough to make the game like tough to watch. But then they still pull it out. And this time around, Rutgers, I think, is going to be able to protect their quarterback, throw the ball, get their playmakers in action. And again, like with Ohio, like not really being able to. I mean, I just don't see Ohio. Yeah, I mean, really matching up in the trenches on either side of the ball.
No.
And I think that's going to be the biggest problem for them, because like that's how they lost to 4-8 Kentucky and got the score ran up. So I mean, against Rutgers with a better O line, I think then they're with new faces on the D line, new faces on the O line. I think Rutgers is going to exploit them, and their offense is going to get going. So it won't be like completely ugly. So yeah, I mean, I think Rutgers, I think it has potential to be interesting, but not like really that competitive. Like, yeah, I think I would expect a 14 to 17 point win for the Scarlet Knights, maybe a little bit more, but it might take till the third quarter, fourth quarter to get there. Like, I would be surprised if Rutgers starts pulling away and like wins by 40. I'd also be surprised if Rutgers like wins by like 7-10, because that could mean maybe Rutgers isn't as good as people thought. But if Rutgers wins by like 50, then maybe they're better than they thought, or Ohio's worse, because I don't really expect that either. I think it's going to be like 14 to 17, maybe 20 at the most, something around those lines. I think it's going to be respectable, but Rutgers is going to prove themselves to be the better team, because I mean, even against the Mac's best team, like Rutgers be able to win that game. And then plus you're talking about all these transfers, like it's just going to be very hard for Ohio to compete with all of that in the trenches for like a full game when they're not going to have it.
No.
So anyway, but I mean, I still think compared to what's on that slate, I feel like it could be an appetizer. Like I feel like it's intriguing enough to watch, and like, it's always interesting when it's like a better G5 team, and like Rutgers isn't really a worse like Power 4 team, but they're still not like Ohio State level. So it's like there's potential for it to be competitive. I don't think it's going to be competitive to the point where it gets scary, because then Rutgers is going to be in trouble in Big Ten season. But I mean, other than that, Nebraska taking on Cincinnati, I think is the game to watch on Thursday night, because that's another, like, well, I guess Cincinnati's now a Power 4 team, but they've also struggled. Nebraska should be a favorite in that one. They're only favored by about a touchdown, but that game takes place in Kansas City. So I mean, Nebraska, their quarterback Dylan Rail is known for kind of being a Patrick Mahomes like cosplayer, like he like emulates him a lot. It's gonna be so funny to see him go out on that field and do all the same motions. And I mean, I like Raiola a lot. I like Mahomes a lot too, but like it's just funny to see all of that go on. But I mean, I think that could be a really interesting game. I mean, again, can Cincinnati, I mean, I still kind of like to think of them as like a group of 5 team, like a very good one, although they're in the Power 4. Can they close the gap against Nebraska? Can Nebraska start the season strong? They've also been a team that struggles a little bit. Loses a lot of games they should win. They haven't made a bowl until last year. They made a bowl, but before that they've been bitten. They've been like unlucky, but I mean, they should be able to win this
They've
one.
also just been bad.
They've also just not been good. But I think now
like we could say unlucky, we could say unfortunate.
They have lost like a lot of
they were not
one-score games like in recent years, which I guess but yeah, they also just haven't been good. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, to be one of the few teams they've been able to beat is like Rutgers for some reason. But Rutgers also
we've also I don't want to break this to you. We've also been
not great. Yeah.
Bad.
Exactly.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, but I remember going into last season's Nebraska game, and Rutgers. Yeah, it was a weird September, but a good one in the way that they beat Virginia Tech and then Washington, and 2 games were also like, Virginia Tech, they almost blew a big lead, and Washington, they got like outplayed, but they still were able to execute and win. And then Nebraska was like kind of a disappointment, but then October, like the ship kind of fell off the rails completely, like. So anyway, I don't really want to get
back got thumped by Nebraska's defense. Like they could not get anything.
Yeah, and even that one touchdown like got taken off. Like there was a few things, but yeah, Nebraska basically made the game tough for Rutgers. Like they shut them down, and yeah, they won like a slugfest. So I mean, props to them. But we'll see how Nebraska is. We're gonna do the whole Big Ten run through. I'm just going through top games in the Week 1 slate. Friday, Georgia Tech taking on Colorado. I think that's going to be pretty good. Deion Sanders, how is he going to do without Shador and without Travis Hunter? Georgia Tech, last year, I think they put themselves on the map by almost beating Georgia. They beat Miami. Their quarterback was pretty good. Like I think they might be like a sleeper ACC contender this year. I'm very high on them. Colorado, I think potential to make noise in the Big 12. Another one that like I haven't really focused on too much, but could still be a good game. Auburn taking on Baylor. That's another Big 12 team that's kind of like middle of the pack against SEC team that's like kind of middle of the pack, trying to make some noise. Like this might be a good way to do it. They always kind of like, I don't know, teams like that. They kind of, again, it's kind of like how Rutgers used to be. Like they used to like, they're good in the non-conference. They're kind of okay in the conference. They don't really do that good. They lose to the top teams. There isn't really anything to write home about. Sometimes there's more hype with like a team like Auburn, but they're overmatched. I don't know. I don't really see that changing with Auburn or Baylor this year, to be honest. I don't really know, but I saw Auburn was claiming a lot of national championships from the past, but I don't know. I mean, my friends at Crimson
Tide.
Claiming. Auburn's always made the Iron Bowl really interesting when it's at Jordan Hare. So we'll see if that happens again this year. But I don't know. I mean, I think they have a new quarterback at Auburn. I'm not really sure like too much about their team and everything, but yeah, they're just like not that good, not that bad. They're kind of like in that weird middle, but even then they're like not that great because they lost to Vanderbilt, but it could be an interesting step forward.
But Alabama also lost to Vanderbilt.
I know, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I can't really. Anyway, but those are just the appetizers, because Saturday's where this really gets good. We have Ohio State taking on Texas, which is going to be the showdown of clash of heavyweights. Like, I mean, it's a playoff rematch. It's going to look a bit different. Texas is going to start Arch Manning. Ohio State's going to start Julian Sayin, which is official. So, I mean, I was like kind of worried that, maybe he wouldn't get enough reps, but they're definitely giving him enough time to get into that. I don't know. I mean, I'm a little nervous, like, someone who's going to root for Ohio State in the Big Ten here. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Texas, even though the underdogs are slightly better and they have a more complete situation with the quarterback thing. I'm a little nervous how Sain's going to do in his debut. With that being said, I think he's still the better choice over Keen Holes. Also, their running backs are fresh. A lot of their O-line's fresh. Like we're talking about with Ohio, but at a much higher level, obviously. Ohio State, their defense, they're basically starting a brand new defense other than Caleb Downs. Offense, Jeremiah Smith, Cornell Tate. The receiver core is really good. Running backs, they have like C.J. Donaldson, who's a West Virginia transfer, James People, who is a backup, and I'm sure they're still pretty good, but it's just first time out, like, you know what I mean? Like against a team like Texas, who's also replacing a lot, but I don't know. I would say like just mainly because of the quarterback situation, I would favor Texas slightly. I just don't know how Ohio State's going to do week one. I think Ohio State is going to be a dangerous team again this year. They're probably going to win a lot of games in the Big Ten. I'm just a little nervous about that, but I mean, I think it could go either way. Who knows? Like Arch Manning, he can also make mistakes. Like that could happen. Ohio State's defensive front is going to be as good as any. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be like, the marquee game. It's probably going to be a one-score game. I mean,
if Ohio State goes out and beats Texas, right?
Yeah.
We can confidently say that the
You're the one
SEC
thing.
is not going to win
The
a
national
national championship this season.
Because Texas
That's
is
what
like
we can
their
confidently say.
yeah. Texas is like their biggest hope and hype. And I mean, it's not even hype. With them, I think it's real. I mean, they have a really good team. They're returning a lot, at least probably I think more than Ohio State is at least. And also like their quarterback situation is a lot better than some of these other teams. And they're ranked number 1 in the AP poll. But if Ohio State knocks them off week 1, I mean, with saying fresh out, like I mean, they're gonna overtake them and take that one spot right back. And yeah, that's gonna be a tone setter. I mean, if Ohio State could prove that, then they'll probably be the one seed in the playoff, assuming they don't lose a game. Although Michigan, again, that's been like their kryptonite for a few seasons. Michigan's supposed to be better this year too.
Yeah, what's going to happen with Dave Portnoy on the broadcast?
Oh my god, that's gonna be nuts. I mean, I can't wait to see that. Like, it's gonna be, and then Penn State also a very hype team. So
disrespected by everyone.
Yeah, it's gonna be so funny seeing him like go against Urban Meyer in Columbus for the week 1.
Oh.
Big Noon's gonna be there. Game Day's gonna be there. They're gonna do Corso's last headgear pick, which is gonna be, so tune in early for like before that game for
They're both gonna be
extra
there?
juice. I think so. Yeah, Game Day's gonna do Lee Corso's last ever headgear pick. Big Noon's gonna be there. I mean, that's like it is a Fox game, first of all, and second of all, it's a Ohio State. I mean, like so anyway, I mean, that's going to be huge. I don't think this might be the biggest opening matchup like ever. Like, I mean, between like, how good these two teams are, the brands, like the show, like everything, the playoff rematch. I mean, it doesn't get better than number 1 versus number 3 in the AP poll to start off a season, the defending champions against the top team of this year. I mean, that's like, like you got to be watching this game. If you don't watch any other games, you got to watch that. That's number 1
unless it's your team game.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, unless it's like your team game. But for us, like Rutgers plays on Thursday, so this is going to make Saturday that much better. Likely coming off a win and enjoying like a slate like this without your team on it, like perfect. Syracuse, Tennessee is also going to be going on at the noon slot. Also a game to watch. Although I don't think I'm really going to be watching it because like Ohio State. So, but if you want to flip the channel, that could be an interesting one. I mean, Tennessee coming off a playoff bid, Syracuse also coming off a 10-win season. Although I think they're expected to regress under McCord or without McCord. But another one, LSU, Clemson.
I don't know. McCord wasn't great last season, so
He was. He had like almost 50,000, 5,000 passing yards. Like, he was pretty good for them last year. That was a major reason why.
But he also had a lot of picks, so
like draft pick. Oh, like interception. Yeah, his stat line wasn't the best of the best, but I mean, I feel like Syracuse kind of had a breakout year last year in terms of that. But I mean, again, going against an SEC foe always makes it like a bit tougher than the ACC. Kind of similar to like the Big Ten, so it's going to be a step up for them. Also, they're breaking in a new quarterback too. I think Tennessee is also. So I mean that's going to be an interesting one. These new quarterbacks things, like I mean, that's always so intriguing. But it's not like the offense isn't going to function, but it's just going to be a little different. And again, it's just Arch Manning versus Julian Sayin is like what I keep going back to. And like I like Sayin more than Keenholz. I'm glad they're not making that. Keenholz's a good player, don't get me wrong, but I'm glad they're not making that mistake. But I'm just still a little bit worried about what that's going to look like first time out. Like, but then again, Sayan's a very highly touted quarterback too. It's just I think Arch Manning has more experience and he's also very highly like, he has the same skill set as Sayan, maybe even a little better. So
What
in a game where
experience?
the
Arch Manning's
teams,
barely seen the field.
yeah, but like he's played more than Sayan's like played like I don't even know how many snaps, like, but
Nothing. He's a freshman.
yeah, he's yeah. I think at least Manning's come in a little bit, like, but again, both of them are super green. It's just about hype at this point. I don't know. I mean, it can go either way. Like, it's just like the more you think about these games, the more confused you're gonna get. So I'm gonna just try to
Yeah.
enjoy it. Whoever wins wins. I mean, Texas is gonna try to make a statement for the SEC, and for that number one ranking, and Ohio State's gonna like say we're not going anywhere. So I mean I hope they win. But other than that, like we'll see. I mean, we'll see if Sayan's really all that. I think he has a good chance of being that. I just don't know if it's gonna happen right away. I think Arch Manning's slightly more proven. He's been in some more games, even just as a backup or for a play here and there. I don't know. Maybe it's the name, maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's the fact that I'm rooting for Ohio State, so I'm more nervous about them. But that's why, like, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But hey, I mean, I think Ohio State's still going to be in the game. Another top 10 showdown, LSU Clemson. I think this one's another that one is like big time game all over.
Welcome to
And I
the
mean,
Tiger Cage.
yeah, Battle of the Tigers, Battle of the Death Valleys. Battle of teams that have underachieved in the last few seasons too. I mean, LSU has not won a season opener in several seasons. No, again, they've played in a lot of these big time games. They had the Florida State series when they were good. They played USC last year. They lost to them. Although again, USC wasn't really that great either. But like, I mean, LSU like they haven't made
USC
the
is still
playoffs.
USC though. They still have talent on that
Yeah, they're still
roster.
like weren't a bad team by any stretch. They almost beat Penn State last year. I mean, they were like still, pretty like frisky competitive. I mean, in terms of like, yeah, LSU has not made the playoffs under Brian Kelly. They're looking to change that. Clemson has made the playoffs. They won the ACC last year. They went 0-3 against SEC teams. They've looked like a kind of like a paper tiger, and so has LSU. Really, they've looked like a team that is good but not great, or like great but not elite. Like they haven't really proven themselves against the best of competition. Although they did kind of push Texas in that playoff game. They definitely played a very competitive game with South Carolina. But this year, I mean, Clemson's roster looks really good. I mean, they bring back multiple NFL talents. They have Kate Klubnik, one of the returning quarterbacks. Like this is why people are so high on Clemson and Penn State because they're returning a lot of proven production, while the other big names have not. But I mean, I think Clemson, they're still. I think they might be favored, but I feel like a lot of the public still sees them as like again like a paper tiger. If they can go out there and beat LSU, an SEC team in the opener, I think that changes all of that. I think people will take Clemson seriously as a contender if they can go out there and beat the SEC team. South Carolina is supposed to be pretty good this year. Clemson's still going to be favored. LSU is supposed to be pretty decent. Clemson should still be favored. So, they're not playing Georgia this year. They have to get an SEC win. If you're the Clemson Tigers, especially considering you're ranked fourth, the game's at home. This is like your big prove it moment. And then South Carolina is another one. Like, you can win the ACC. It's a weaker conference. Can you like really beat like another playoff team from the SEC? Is my question on Clemson. Otherwise, to me, it just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like if they win the ACC and they lose in the playoff again, does it really matter? Like, I don't really think so. So can they like take that next step? I kind of hope so for them because I like Clemson as an outsider, as a non-SEC team, but they have to prove it against SEC teams this year. They have to. And honestly, LSU has to prove it too because they've also been a team that struggled against the higher end competition, which is why, like people don't take them seriously. So they also have to go out there and get a statement win. So this one should be a really good one.
Yeah, both teams are going to be searching for that. Honestly, I feel like Clemson's probably got it this year.
I think
I
Clemson's
mean,
supposed to be the better. I think they might be real because they have like NFL talent on their D line at receiver, at quarterback. Clemson just does it differently than a lot of other teams because they don't really bring in a lot of transfers. Like Dabo Swinney's kind of against that, so it's like every few seasons their talent and recruiting like gets to a place where it can like kind of push and compete. And I think they're kind of at that place this year. But like that, it kind of takes a little while to build for them. So I feel like that's why like they're this year they're supposed to be really, really good. And other years they're just kind of still pretty good, but not like to that level. But yeah, I mean, I think Clemson. I want to see them win because I want to see them like really prove that they're for real in this thing and not like a fraud. You know what I mean? Not like a team that wins the ACC and then can't beat anyone else. Like that really like upsets me when things like that. It's like Rutgers going 3-0 in the non-conference and 1-8 in the Big Ten. Like I hated that. Like you know what I mean? Clemson has to take a next step. But then again, so does LSU because they've also been like a team that like hasn't really even been able to make the playoff at all, like whether it's conference champion or not. So I mean, they haven't won a season opener in so long. So yeah, it's a big prove it game for both teams, and the environment should be really good. It's the ACC's version of Death Valley. So I wonder if they're doing a home and home because that would mean the next year they're gonna playing in LSU's Death Valley, but I'm not sure. Like maybe probably I would assume, but all I know is they're playing the opener, LSU versus Clemson. So I mean, yeah, Clemson's a favorite here, which again, like I guess they should be, but like I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think it should be a really good game. Another one between the ACC and SEC is Bama versus Florida State. I think that one could be exciting. Bama's bringing in a new quarterback. FSU is trying to come off their horrific season of last year that we I think we already talked about that, but Bama's going to be favored. But I mean, can Florida State just turn everything around and flip the switch in one game? I mean, that
I
environment is a good one. It's a nationally televised game. Like, let's see what happens.
well, first of all, I think Bama is going to light them up. Um, have you seen the FSU quarterback like
Castellanos, the transfer
talking,
from
yeah,
Boston College.
talking smack about how they're
Yeah.
going to beat
I really
Alabama?
hated that. He's like, oh, I ran the ACC by myself at Boston College. Like, you guys didn't do anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is he talking about?
I think FSU is. I
They're
think
setting themselves up for disaster.
they're
Like,
getting they're setting themselves up to get absolutely rocked by the Crimson
by the
Tide.
Crimson Tide. Yeah,
I
well,
don't understand how you're already disrespecting your opponent when, first of all, you're going to a team that went 2-10.
right.
You went from Boston College where you didn't do anything over there.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how you're already disrespecting your opponent with all that in place. There's nothing that shows that you should be saying anything.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
You're the team that has to prove it. Like,
you're
it's
the
not
team
the other
that's
way around.
you're to the team that's one wrong mistake away from getting massacred, probably.
Probably, yeah. I think Bama's definitely the better team. Again, they're bringing in a youth quarterback too, but like, I think he's supposed to be pretty good from what I've heard. And Ty Simpson, I saw that their running back on Jam Miller is set to miss the opener with an injury, so that might be some good news for Florida State fans, I guess. So he suffered a upper body injury in one of their scrimmages. So that might be something. But yeah, Ty Simpson going to be starting for Alabama as the quarterback. He's
I
been
don't
their
think it's going to
backup
matter.
for the last couple of years. I think they're still the better team. I think Florida State and the game being at Florida State is giving this extra juice and hype. And yes, it is going to be fun. And after the Ohio State Texas opener, I think it's probably going to be the game to watch in the 3:30 slot, unless you have anything else. But that's the one I'm going to be watching. But like, I'm excited to hear the tomahawk chop and everything. I don't really see it being a win. At the same time, I think Florida State can turn the page on where they were last year and be more competitive in the ACC. I just don't think they're going to be able to knock off number 8 Alabama this year in the opener. Even if it's at their own stadium, I just don't see it. But it
Depends
should
on how
still be a good
competitive it
game.
is. If
I
it's a
mean,
good
not
game, I'll keep watching. If it's not a good game, turn
switch
to
the
like
channel.
two MAC teams going at
Oh
it.
god, yeah, that week one. I have to check out more that 3:30 because these other time slots there's suitable alternatives. I don't know. That one might be the best 3:30 game.
There's also a decent amount of
Very
Thursday games too, so which we obviously won't
true.
watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're missing. We're probably gonna be missing Boise State, South Florida because of our game, but that's okay. I mean, I'm sure I'll keep tabs on it. East Carolina, NC State, that could be a sneaky one, like an upset watch type game over there.
Yeah.
Buffalo, Minnesota. There's a lot of these like good MAC teams taking on the middle tier Big Ten teams, which is always an interesting fight. But again, that's where the Big Ten teams still usually win handily. Wisconsin, Miami, Ohio. It's going to be one for Rutgers fans to keep an eye out. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Saturday slate, I mean, Bama, FSU. Yeah, I mean, like, we'll see. I mean, there's like the college sickos game of the week might be like Temple versus UMass, which surprisingly might be an actually good game if you really follow this stuff. Nevada's playing Penn State. I mean, they have like a horrible non-conference schedule. So does Indiana. Um, they're going all the way with the SEC, like non-conference scheduling, which I honestly don't blame them for. Montana State, who is like one of the best FCS teams, takes on Oregon. That might be one that I would want to turn to. Stuff like that. The night slot, obviously LSU Clemson we talked about. I mean, other than that, I mean the a true nightcap might be Utah taking on UCLA. That's two Power Four teams. I mean, I think Utah would probably be the favorite team. UCLA wasn't great, but they're expected to start Nico Amulava coming in from Tennessee after that, the whole NIL deal thing fell out or whatever the reason was. But that could be an interesting one. The Sunday slate, Virginia Tech taking on South Carolina, I think South Carolina has a lot to prove this season. There's a lot of sleeper picks for them. I think Virginia Tech, that's a big spot for them. They lost to Vanderbilt last year. They play Vanderbilt in the rematch this year, but I think South Carolina is going to win that one. I think it should still be a pretty good one. It's Shane Beamer going against his father's program, Frank Beamer. So, I mean, obviously we saw Virginia Tech last year. So, I mean, and then Notre Dame taking on Florida is going to be a very good game. That's the third top 10 matchup. Obviously Notre Dame coming off the national championship appearance. Miami, always like, a lot of attention on them. I mean, they're, still a top 10 team, one of the best in the ACC other than Clemson. So I think that one could be a very, very good game. Not Cam Ward. Notre Dame's bringing in a new quarterback. Miami is going to be bringing in Carson Beck for that game from Georgia. A big NIL transfer money going in at the U. So that's a big opener as well. It's a rematch of Catholics versus convicts, like one of the old famous games back in the day. Yeah, and then finally TCU versus UNC, Bill Belichick's NFL debut or college football debut. TCU is another
Not
one.
NFL. Not NFL.
Not NFL. He's done a lot of that. TCU, that's an interesting team. They've kind of been quieter. They made the national championship game a few years ago. They upset Michigan in the playoff, and I was pretty happy to see that. I did not think they had a shot in hell, and they were able to pull it off and get away with that one. But then they got massacred by Georgia. But still, they made a national championship. Since then, it's been a little quieter, but they've still been like in the mix, I guess. I think their quarterback this season's supposed to be pretty good. So UNC as well, bringing in a new quarterback, new coach, a lot of hype, obviously. So that's going to be a perfect way, a really good Monday game to kind of end the week. But I mean, this is like what the best week one since like since like ever. Like I can't even think of another week one where there's been this much fireworks. I mean, we have we have three top 10 matchups. Obviously the three to watch are Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Clemson, and then what's the other one? I'm missing Notre Dame, Miami. Those are the three top 10.
Yeah.
But like so many sleeper matchups. We're talking about, like the game we're going to, and then we're talking about Boise State, USF. We're talking about Alabama at Florida State. They're just like storylines. Syracuse, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, South Carolina. They're just like storylines popping out all over the place. All these nationally televised standalones. Like, I mean, this is just like beautiful stuff. And then there's going to be the games that nobody cares about, but like that we're going to end up flipping to because just to check how the programs stack up against each other. It's just such a great week. There's so many standalone nationally televised games to watch. And, I think that's just going to be like absolutely terrific.
Well, first of all, I mean, you're talking about an absolutely stacked slate, like Miami, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas.
Yeah.
That's like the crescendo on everything. Ohio
LSU
State.
Clemson is going to be very, very fun too. I cannot wait for that. But yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to start moving into like breaking down the contenders of each conference, the
Yeah.
contenders, pretenders, and everybody
I
else?
think we should do that. But I guess one more thing, while we're like kind of on the overview of everything. What's your thoughts on the CFP expansion proposal by the Big Ten? 24 to 28 teams. I don't know. Personally, I think it's a little ridiculous. Like 16 teams, maybe. I feel like we're just going too far with this. Like I was seeing the Night Reports, like their podcast on like a mock bracket with that many teams, and they're just like there's some weird matchups in there. There's some it's like fun in football, but like it's just like there's Alabama Army, which would kind of make for an interesting matchup. There's like Michigan taking on Notre Dame. Like last year's Michigan team was like borderline unwatchable. Like I don't understand why people think this is a good idea. Like we're gonna have to cancel conference championships, which mean like a heck of a lot. I mean, it just dilutes like their whole regular season, like to a
If they
point where
want, if they want an expanded college football playoff, they have to do it slowly,
slowly, yeah, we need to like
right?
go up to 16, then to 20, maybe then to 24. But like, how much do you really like want like a March Madness? Like, I mean, like I know the FCS has a good like playoff model, but I don't know. I just don't think it's a great idea. On the flip side, though, like maybe Rutgers could make the playoff if we have that many teams in this thing. Like,
Well,
it wouldn't be too
think
far
about
off.
it, right? What do you need for a larger playoff to be successful? You need better competition. Unfortunately, the only way that you get better competition is um, by teams having like miracle runs where they upset somebody. You know, if like let's say SMU goes on a run and punched Penn State in the mouth, and then
Yeah, that would
punched
be nice.
Ohio State in the
Yeah,
mouth, and then won the whole thing.
right.
That's the only way that the level of competition is going to even out. But you're going to need like years in between that. Like you're going to need like 20 years of having a 12-team college football playoff to be finally like, oh yeah, no, we need a 16-team college
Yeah,
football
you gotta
playoff.
get. I mean, we just started the 12 team. Like that was such a big deal. Remember how much hype around the 12 team was there for the first year of that? Like we haven't even like marinated into that, and even in
The
that
only reason
format,
why that the 12-team college football playoff even like came into existence is because the 4-team college football playoff still saw undefeated teams not make the college football
yeah, that
playoff.
was. I think 4 teams was just too small. I mean, it just like when teams sometimes like when Ohio State didn't make it or when Florida State didn't make it as an undefeated conference champion. Like I just thought that was
Exactly.
so you needed
If
like
you're
12,
undefeated, you
like
should be in the
yeah.
playoff.
And teams like Penn State and like Ole Miss, like that second tier of teams, like I feel like, yeah, it's fun to mock them for not being able to beat the top teams, but like I still feel like teams like that should be able to be, should be able to get a fair shot. The top group of 5 teams should get a fair shot. Like, you know what I mean? I think we have it right now, but like we just started this. Like we need this even in this format, there's been so many blowouts in that first round. Like, do we really like if we have 28 teams, like those first round is just gonna be like really, really ugly. Like I don't think we want that. Like I mean, the networks might want it. It might be fun, and it's just like when's like enough? Like, I mean, maybe 16 teams I could see, but like let's let this 12 team, 14,
Do we
16
really
team,
want to
whatever.
see? Do we really want to see Alabama versus Navy?
No,
Like,
I
come on
mean
now.
that'd be just a. I mean, Navy wouldn't even like attempt to pass. Like,
Yeah.
they
Yes.
wouldn't even attempt to pass. Like they like run the triple option, like the whole game. Like, I mean, do we really want that? Like, I mean, come on, guys. Like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, no. I mean, like the FCS, they have like a nice like expanded playoff, but I think they kind of build that in like over the course of a month. Like, I don't know. It's
But it's
just
also the
different here.
FCS.
Exactly. There's a lot
You
more
know,
like parity and there's this and that. And usually like a Dakota school usually end up winning it anyway after all of that goes down. But it's a little different journey. So I mean
shout
we should
out
bring
to
more
North Dakota State. When are they going to move up
to FBS, yeah.
to FBS? We'll never know.
They probably like beat like half of the teams in the MAC, like you know what I mean? So like they've been known to
Probably.
like they've known that been known to upset like Big Ten teams, like Power Four teams left and right. So I mean they had to stop scheduling them because they did that so much. They almost beat Colorado last year, and Colorado was a pretty good team. They went like 9-3. As soon as the hype died down around them, they actually got good, which was like the funny part. But anyway, enough on that. I
Screw
think it's
Colorado.
just it's just ridiculous. But I don't know why. Like, I mean, basically the Big Ten and the SEC would get 7 auto bids, and then the other 2 conferences would get like 5. Like, it's just like we're just gonna invite like half the conference to like the playoff. Like, it's just like
7 auto bids. Think about that.
like
And then
Iowa
2
was
at
like the year
large bids,
7
which will
team, I think.
probably go to Big Ten and SEC teams.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I mean, yeah, that's still a much, but 12 team has been fun. Like I think we have it about right. I think there's things that could be worked on. it's not
No,
fun
I
to
think
see
I think it's just stay where it is now.
yeah, it's not fun to see the early blowouts, but the later games were pretty good in that playoff. And yeah, I mean, again, like teams like IU, like 11-1 last year, like teams like Penn State, Boise State, SMU, like those are teams that should make the playoff. I feel like, but teams like 7-5 Michigan or like an Iowa team or an Army or Navy, like that's just like you're kind of like pushing it like a little bit there, like. You know what I mean? We don't want this to just become so diluted. Then we might as well just take off like the last month of the regular season because they're going to need like all that time and like it's just gonna like be really weird. Like, what's gonna happen to bowl games if they like start doing? You know what I mean? Like, what's gonna happen to the rest of the bowl games? What's gonna happen
Who's
to?
ready for the Pinstripe Bowl playoff game between
Uh,
between Georgia and Temple? Who's ready?
yeah, exactly. And we might as well just invite like all 136 teams and just like cancel this, have like a bracket or something like that. That'd be like
One
it's gonna be
giant.
the next thing, like 1 versus 136, like knockout, like Kent State versus like Ohio
Then we'll
State.
do the college football NIT too.
Yeah, they honestly that might be a good idea. Like for like the teams that don't make the 12 team, like
It would be an awful idea.
yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. Bowl games are fun. Like we don't want to take out bowl games to have like all these weird playoff matches between 5 and 28 and this and that, and like it's just I don't know. It's just like I can't believe like someone would even consider that like as an idea. It's just like
No,
ugh,
and I know why, because it was proposed by the Big Ten commissioner. It's a way to set up the Big Ten, not just for the now, but for the future.
to like make
Like,
sure they get because I feel like yeah the arguments between the Big Ten and the SEC are like the Big Ten's like we want this many auto bids because we play a tougher conference schedule. We have like, we have 9 conference games, and the SEC is like, no, we have 8 conference games, and like, they're pushing against that whole thing. They don't want it to be like 4-4 or whatever. They want it to just be more
here's the
traditional.
solution: schedule another conference game.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, so now like when teams like Indiana like schedule like the easiest 3 teams, like I can't even blame them because it's like what the SEC's been doing for years, and now if the Big Ten wants their fair share of bids,
You
I
know
think they
how
should have.
right before rivalry week, when you see the Titan matchup of Alabama versus the Citadel.
The Citadel. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like you ever notice like the week before rivalry week, it's
I
always
hate
like Georgia versus like Morehead State or something
yeah,
like
they
that,
played their
Murray
like
State.
they play their boneheaded games, like their FCS opponents like in November. And I'm just like, what is going on over
And they
here?
do
And
the same
like,
thing, like they do the same 3 game slate that the Big Ten does, and then they schedule that in late November, where it's like,
yo,
okay, you know what?
it's just ridiculous. Like
Uh, what you should be
anyway.
doing is like, okay, go out schedule Notre Dame,
Yeah.
go out and schedule.
Like a good Big Ten team or like even a bad one, like anything, like
God,
ACC
yeah,
team,
at
like
least
something, like
go out and schedule a Boston College, like.
right? Like what are we like they'll play one Power Four team, like if that, and then they'll play 3 like easy games. And the Big Ten, at least, to their credit, usually plays 2 easier opponents and 1 Power 4 team. So like we still get our 10 in, and they get like 9, unless most SEC teams will play 5 power or 9 power games, and the Big Ten will usually play 1 more. So that's why like yeah, it doesn't really make too much sense when like if each conference gets the same amount of bids or whatever. But like Big Ten has to do what they got to do. So anyway, this whole speculation thing is just getting like a little bit much for me. But yeah, I mean that's just a lot. I mean I get it like but 7 teams is just for conference is just like kind of a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should probably move on to our next thing about the conferences. That was going to be the main point of this episode, but I guess we got a lot of good previews done with like, week 0, week 1,
Yeah.
all of that good stuff. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, other than that, yeah, let's get started with this. With the Big Ten first of all. Obviously that's the conference we're most familiar with. So first of all, I mean, Ohio State coming off their national championship. We talked about Texas in the opener, Michigan on the other end of that. Penn State's going to be a big game for them. Julian Sayin coming in to start the season versus Texas. I mean, they have a reshaped roster. We kind of already did talk a lot about like what their roster might look like, the running backs, the receivers. so much talent. They have a lot of talent coming up. It's just a bunch of new ones. I mean, do you still see them like the class of the Big Ten and the country? I mean, I don't know, like that. I have to put a little bit of a pause on that. Like immediately, I have to
Ohio
like.
State.
I mean, well, they're gonna prove it week one whether they're there or not. If they do, they are. If they're not, maybe not. But I mean, I still think like if the week one they're not quite there, I mean, they can easily settle in and become that team. Even if they lose to Texas, they could still get better over the course of the year and become like the juggernaut by the end of it. Saying just might need some time to that's really about it. I mean, I have no doubt like the defensive line's still going to be really good. The O line's going to be good. The skill players are going to be pretty good. The running backs, I'm a little skeptical that they're going to be as good as Judkins and Henderson, but I still think this could be a really damn good football team. The only problem is there's other ones of those that have like all that continuity, like Texas and Penn State, which is why I'm like a little skeptical that Ohio State's going to be just that good. But even if they lose their opener, I still think they could end up becoming the juggernaut that we know them as by the end of the season. I just think it's going to take some time, personally.
Well, first of all, I don't think Ohio State's going anywhere with that receiving core. I mean,
With Jeremiah Smith,
they're gonna make Sain's job easy.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You know,
And even Brandon Ennis, like I mean, these guys they could probably start anywhere else in the country. Their receiving room is as talented as any, and like that's going to be a lot of fun to see. All three of those guys are extremely talented.
I don't think they're going anywhere. I mean, they might not be national champs again, but I don't think they're going anywhere in terms
Yeah,
of national relevance.
yeah. I mean, I don't think they're gonna like they're gonna fall off and like miss the playoff or anything. I'm just not 100% sure they, week one, first of all, they get started on the right foot. And second of all, I mean, after that, I'm sure they'll be fine. But like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just like, are they going to be national champs? Maybe, maybe not. But are they going to be relevant? Absolutely. They're still probably at the very least going to make the Big Ten championship, if not win it. I guess the big obstacle for them is like this Penn State team. Like, I mean, their roster, they bring back a lot in all the right places. I mean, quarterback Drew Aller, their running back duo Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. Their defense, they have guys like Dennis Sutton, like all these guys coming back on all three levels. They bring in Jim Knowles from Ohio State as defensive coordinator. Their offensive line is supposed to be pretty good, one of the top in the league. The receiving core, they brought in 3 transfers to address their weakest position. That's held them back, arguably. I mean, the reason, like they've had a hard time beating teams like that is because they don't have the receivers to keep up. We saw what happened when Ohio State's defensive back ripped the ball out of like Penn State's hand. That's inexcusable for a top team to have a receiver play like that in one of the biggest games of the season. But I think they fixed that, largely fixed that problem. They brought in guys like Devontae Ross, Kyron Hudson, Trevor Pena, like some of the top portal receivers, and they already have such a good offensive, like, the rest of the offense, I mean, quarterback, running back, that continuity is something Ohio State doesn't have, and that's something that a lot of teams don't have. And their defense is already like pretty elite. They're probably going to be even better under like Null. So I guess their question is now, can they take the next step? Obviously, I think they're going to return to the playoff. Can they win a big game? I mean, they have Oregon. They have Ohio State. They have a whiteout game against Oregon. So if this is any year for them to take the next step, it's probably this one. They're probably going to be favored in that whiteout game. Ohio State on the road. I mean, I think they might have the better roster. However, I just don't know if they're going to be able to put it together and beat Ohio State in Ohio State. They haven't been able to do it. But maybe they win a game later on in the season that, gives them at least like a respectable run. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're ranked second in the polls. I mean, can their expectations match? Can their reality match their expectations is really the question, because if they're as good as people think they are, they're probably going to be in the national championship game and maybe lose to Texas. Like that's what the AP poll is saying. But is that going to be reality or not? Like it's up to Penn State to, they have the roster to do it. They have no excuses. It's up to them whether they want to take that next step or not.
How many times are we going to be high on Penn State until we just say, okay, I'm not going to be high on you anymore until you go out and win?
Do it. Yeah.
Like, listen, you could have a team full of nothing but 5 stars, the best in their class, but if you don't have the coach to beat the teams,
James
it
Franklin.
doesn't matter how good of a recruiter he is. If he gets out coached and out adjusted, I'm sorry. Penn State's roster, great, fantastic.
better
top
than
recruiting
usual even.
classes throughout the time. Penn State's coaching staff. Come on now, you've played Ohio State, Michigan twice a year for 8 years going with these top recruiting classes, and you've beat one of them once. You know, eventually the fan base is gonna stop letting excuses run the show.
Yeah, no
Unfortunately,
more
you know,
excuses.
if you are that good for that long, you have to beat somebody.
You have to break
It's
through.
no more.
No more
No,
excuses.
you
Like,
have to pony up and knock somebody off.
yeah, and this roster is, I think, good enough to do. I mean, I feel like maybe they lose to Ohio State and Columbus, but Oregon, like, I think they should be. I think they should go 11-1 in the regular season, make the playoff. Like, if they can hold up to their roster, they really should go 12-0, but at least 11-1 with a loss in Columbus.
But
Because
even
Ohio
11 and
State's
1, that's still an underperformance. How
yeah,
many
I mean
times
they
has
should
a
really like
15
with their
win
roster
team?
and their continuity that Ohio State doesn't have, they should be able to go into Columbus and beat them. They should be able to beat Oregon in the whiteout. They should be able to like win the Big Ten championship. Like they
They should
should.
be able to win the playoffs.
They should be able to. Maybe, again,
And
Texas,
in
but
all
they have more
honesty,
continuity than Texas too. Like, they should really be probably the top team in the country, but can they be roster wise? I would say yes, but roster wise, yes, but then in reality, like, I don't know. But I mean, can they at least take a step forward and beat like a big time opponent? Like, I guess is the real question here. Can they make the national championship game? Can they win the Big Ten championship? Can they beat Ohio State for the first time in 10 years or 9 years or whatever it is? Can they beat or can they like do this stuff that they're supposed to do? Because now they finally like again receiver upgraded. Defense even better than usual. Coordinators solid. Kolnicki very solid. Knowles very solid. We know what he did at Ohio State. Running back room top. Offensive line top. Quarterback pretty good. I mean, like and continuity, which a lot of these teams don't have. Like they have to. Yeah, again, like can they? I mean, they really shouldn't be screwing this up. Again, I'd excuse a loss in
it's
Columbus,
served to them on a
but not more than
silver platter
that.
to
Yeah,
run the Big Ten, win
right.
the championship, run the playoff, and
Yeah,
win that championship.
go all
The
the way.
problem is, how many times have they had, squandered golden opportunities to punch their ticket to the Big Ten championship game because they couldn't beat an Ohio State, a Michigan, or an Oregon?
Hmm.
Like, eventually, yeah, I say if they don't do it this year, you really have to
You have to
question.
look at Franklin
You have to look at Franklin.
because for
Maybe you
once,
have to take his
yeah.
coordinators away. Maybe you have to
No, I
force
mean,
him.
I don't know about. I mean, I like their two coordinators that they have now, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I don't know what
Something
it
has to
is.
happen this year. They have to win
Yeah,
something.
because I think usually they don't quite have as much talent as the top dogs. This year they have even more. So I mean, like they have more talent and more continuity than even like a team like Ohio State
Right, but if
or
you look
Oregon
if
does.
you look back at their recruiting classes for the past 5, 6, 7 years, they've been one of the best, if not the best, recruiting classes in the country.
They've been up there, yeah.
You know,
So
so it's at a certain point, it's like,
mhm.
okay, you've had these recruits, you've developed these recruits, you've had them into your system. You have to go out and win.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to win as the underdog. You know,
right. Like
sometimes you got to do it.
yeah, I mean,
Michigan beat Ohio State as the underdog.
like 20
You
point
know,
underdog last year. I mean,
the
like
20-point underdog,
not just
six
like yeah,
wins going
exactly.
into that game, and still beat them.
Yeah, sometimes there's just
Eventually, if you're Penn State, when you're going into the Ohio State game undefeated, you have to come out undefeated.
yeah. And yeah, I think so too. I mean, if they really are the better roster, which I think they are, they should be able to win. Again, like I'd excuse one loss because Ohio State might lose to Texas. They probably are gonna like they might end up screwing up again and losing to Michigan, which is an even bigger problem in my opinion than this. But Penn State, like they at the very least have to go 11-1 this season. Like they can't lose both big games to Oregon and
No,
Ohio State. Like
no.
it's just ridiculous. Like and then lose the Big Ten champion. Like it's like every time they played a big game, they lost. Like Oregon, they lost. Ohio State, they lost. They got gifted into the Big Ten championship because Ohio State lost to Michigan. They lost. Notre Dame, they go on this playoff run and they beat SMU. They beat Boise State. And like people are like, oh, they
Wow.
won a big game. I'm like, no, they haven't. And then they play a big game and they lose to Notre Dame, a team who's also, by the way, struggled to win against teams that are better than them. They still lose that. So there's just no. I'm not hearing any nonsense this year. Like if they lose big games, it's big game James. It doesn't matter if they beat Rutgers. It doesn't matter if they beat the rest of the conference. It doesn't matter anything. It just doesn't matter. Like, and if I'm a Penn State fan, I would be absolutely upset if that was my
I
team.
would be livid,
Yeah,
to be
it's just
honest with you.
ridiculous. Like it's
That's when you got to
ridiculous.
start questioning coaches. You got to start looking at everything. You know, I think if they at least, maybe they don't bring home the Natty, maybe they don't, but they got to
But
at
they
least
should
win
at
the
least
Big
play
Ten.
for one, yeah. And they were kind of, to be fair, because of the way things broke out for them, they were on the doorstep. And maybe they take the next step this year and they play for one, and that would be a step forward, assuming they win a big game. And I think this year they would have to get there. You can't you can't beat easier teams all the way to the national championship. Like you got to beat teams that are as good or better. And honestly, roster wise, Penn State, I don't even think they're gonna even be underdogs. Like, I mean, maybe Ohio State because it's a road game, but roster wise, like, I think they're gonna be like at least toss up be
Yeah,
against even the best in the SEC, even the best in the Big Ten. I mean, there's like they're no longer like less talented, which is like I think what separates it. So if they could play up to their talent level, yeah, you're right. They should at the very least like be going to the Big Ten championship, be going to the national championship, maybe winning the Big Ten championship, going at least 11-1, and yeah, really like they should really be going to the Natty. It's just can the expectations live up to the reality? I don't know. We'll see. But roster wise, it's the best this is the best Penn State team in a long time. They have continuity in a lot of places where a lot of other contenders even don't. And yeah, I mean, I'm personally like I think I'm high on them, but I don't know. Like they have to prove it. And I think another team that has to prove it is Oregon because well, they had a very good year in the Big Ten too. Their first year, they won against Ohio State in the regular season. They beat Ohio State. Oh wait, that's what I just said. But they beat
Penn
Penn State in
State.
the Big Ten championship. They obviously got blown out against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, but I mean, they're also replacing their quarterback. They bring in a pretty good one. I guess their question also kind of like Penn State is. Can they also take the next step? Can they? They've never won a national championship in program history.
But
Obviously,
you know
like
what? At least they took home the Big Ten championship last
right,
year.
that's something.
At least Dan Lanning in his first season can say that. What about Franklin? Hmm?
Nothing.
What about Franklin?
But they won one Big Ten championship in 2016, and they beat Ohio State once in 2016. And even that year, like they got snubbed from the playoff, I guess, because they had two other losses. Yeah, to I think Pitt and Michigan. But so yeah, I don't know. It's just like how many times
Was
can they
that the
like
year
come
Michigan
close?
State made the playoffs?
I think that might have
Oh my
maybe it might
god,
have
that
been
was a
that
weird
year.
year.
2016. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was like Ohio State made the playoff over them or something, even though they beat them and they won the Big Ten championship, which is really bizarre, honestly. But at the same time, like I don't know, like I don't know, maybe yeah, I don't really know why that is exactly, but I think they got snubbed that one particular season. Maybe it's because they had two losses and one of them wasn't particularly good. But I mean, like yeah, that was they had a pretty good season that season, and they still didn't make the playoff for some reason. They lost the Rose Bowl to USC, but it's probably because they lost 49-10 to Michigan and 42-39 to Pitt. Is like what I understand because they that year they did beat Ohio State. Ohio State, um, I think had a worse record than them, or maybe the same. I don't exactly remember what it was, but yeah, and Ohio State also lost that year to Clemson in the playoff too. So I mean, they got shut out like 31-0 against what was that Sean Watson's Clemson team? Like that was
Yeah.
yeah, interesting stuff going on. But yeah, it's fun to like kind of like take a look back at all of this. Like I don't know, it was a little bit before I was really like following college football to that degree. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so I mean
Go on about Oregon.
yeah, we should move on to the next yeah, move on to or we were kind of already talking about Oregon a little bit and then we kind of went backwards. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole Penn State rant was interesting, but I mean, in terms of Oregon, like kind of similar questions, I guess, but not really to the level of where Penn State is at with that. But I don't know. I mean, I would still expect them to be among the top teams in the conference. Like, they're still one of the three big dogs, but they might with all the stuff that they're losing and everything. I feel like they might be like the worst out of the three big dogs. Like I really feel like Ohio State and Penn State are going to be a step above them this year. Oregon's probably going to be third in the conference. You know, I don't know. I think that still amounts as a playoff berth, but I think they've lost a lot of that, of their roster last season. I think that might hurt them in the end. But I don't know. If Rutgers gets them in an interesting spot after a tough, our middle swing where we get Iowa, Minnesota, Washington, and who knows how they do in that stretch. If they, like you said, that could be a big game if they're undefeated. They come in 6-0, and then Oregon's a ranked team. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it could potentially be like right for an upset potentially, but I mean, again, a lot would have to go right. But I don't know. Oregon, yeah, pretty good team. I think their big matchup game is going to be against Penn State in the whiteout. Like I said, I think Penn State should be favored in that game, but I think it's obviously going to be competitive. Can they win that one? Can they? I don't think they play Ohio State this year. Can they again go back to the Big Ten championship? I feel like they're the third best team in the conference this year. Like that's where I think Ohio State and Penn State are going to be a step up, but Oregon's not really going to go anywhere from where they were last year either.
I kind of have to agree with you there. I mean, it's hard to imagine them really making any noise in the playoffs. I feel like they're going to be a team that possibly backdoors their way in and then gets washed out immediately.
Yeah, because they lose their quarterback, they lose like a bit. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna exactly be that that good like they were last year. I feel like they'll slip up this year in the regular season. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I'm sure they're probably still gonna make the playoff, but I feel like they end up losing. Maybe it's that Penn State game on the road. And they also play like Indiana this year. They play Rutgers. That could actually be like an interesting trap, but I think they cover that one. They play Iowa away. That could be a tough one with Iowa playing some of their
They're not ready for the East Coast.
Yeah. Kinnick is a really hard place to play. Like they can trap like a team like Oregon too with the way they play their defense. Like that's one to watch too. Like I mean there's games where they could lose, but I feel like they'll get through all of that. They play USC, but I mean yeah, I just don't think they're like gonna be at the level where they were last year, where they were like beating teams like Ohio State, Penn State, stuff like that. So I think they take a step back. I guess the second tier of Big Ten contenders, we have Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. Illinois, I think, is a CFB dark horse. I think they have a very favorable schedule that shakes up in their favor. I think their toughest game is Ohio State. Obviously, they're probably, I guess, they'll be underdogs in that one. The rest of the way, though, I mean, some of their other toughest games are like Duke, who's I guess like an ACC contender, decent team. They maybe lose that one. I don't think so. Indiana, I think that's a game maybe they lose. But they probably won't. Honestly, they could probably go 10-2, maybe even 11-1 themselves. At the very worst, 9-3. Maybe they lose somewhere else that I don't see. But I think they're going to be pretty solid. They might be this year's Indiana, where they can make the playoff. Indiana,
yeah, but that's just been slowly built up over time. This isn't going to be Indiana shooting out of it nowhere.
That's
just
true.
to surprise everybody, be like, "Oh my God, they're good now." No, this Illinois team has slowly risen up as from pretender to contender, slowly built on top of it, getting slowly better year in and year out. This is not
That's true.
Indiana where it's like 1 year, like, oh my God, why is this team good?
Yeah.
This is something we could have
That was
seen.
the Denny magic. But yeah, Illinois we've seen get better. Like last year, I think it's when they really, because even in 23 they were 5-7. They weren't like that good. They were like middle of the pack. But then 24 is I think when they started getting a bit better. Like they obviously, they started the season 3-0. They beat Kansas. They beat Nebraska. Again, like then they lose to Penn State. Like that wasn't particularly competitive, but whatever. I mean, and then they almost lose to Purdue, but in a weird game there. And then they're also kind of like that pretender thing going on with them a little bit. But at least they put together like a 9-win season. They ended up finishing the season strong with 3 straight wins, and then they beat South Carolina in the bowl game, who's also like kind of like, we'll talk about them as a sleeper later in this episode. But so yeah, I mean this year though, I mean more continuity. Again, they bring back Altmaier. They bring back, I think, their top 2 running backs, some pieces on the defense. I mean, I think the biggest benefit, though, is the schedule. I mean, they don't have Penn State on here. There's no Oregon. There's no Michigan. Wait, is there Michigan? No, I don't think so. So, I mean, they're really only playing like Indiana, who's like also in their same tier where it could be a win, could be a loss. That game, keep an eye on that. That could be like a playoff type feel. As those two teams are kind of in that same tier. Again, Duke is a tricky road game. I think Illinois is better than them. They have the same record in a tougher conference. And then Ohio State, I mean, like that could potentially maybe be an upset. I don't know. Like, it's in Illinois. I think Ohio State's going to win. But other than that, there's no games where you'd say like loss. Like even Indiana, like I think Illinois is probably the better team this year. Duke, I think Illinois is the better team. Like, Rutgers, like almost beat them, probably still the better team. Washington, decent teams, probably Illinois still the better team. Wisconsin, probably still the better team. USC still probably the better. Again, like I'm getting tired of saying it now, but like like I feel like other than one game, they're probably not the better team, but maybe they lose a couple. They're not going to lose more than 3 games this season. If they do, it'd be a big disappointment.
No, I mean, especially with how they stack up against, because I don't think Indiana's going to be what they were last year.
No, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
what.
Yeah, I don't think Indiana's going to be as good, and I don't think Duke is quite at their level either, even though they might appear to be. But they play in the ACC again, and I think they might also take a step back. So like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
I think we're probably looking at a 10-2 team.
Yeah, I think
I don't
maybe
know
they
where they're
lose.
going to lose that other game, but I feel like they're going to lose it somewhere with like a
Right, because
Rutgers.
it's hard to like win every single game that your favorite in, or even the toss-uppy ones. Like they might lose to either USC or at Duke or at Indiana. That's a road game. Maybe Rutgers. I don't know, but like they might lose one that they're not supposed to lose, but they're probably not going to lose two. And even then, they still probably have an outside shot at the playoffs. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm wearing orange. That's completely accidental, but like I think the Fighting Illini are one of my sleeper teams this year for the playoff. How about Indiana? I mean, you said they're going to take a step back. I mean,
I
but
think they're going to be probably like a 7-6 team. I
maybe. Yeah, their
I think
schedule also does get a little
because
tough.
they're losing all of their transfers from JMU too. I'm pretty sure most of them are gone. So their
Yeah,
quarterback is
including
gone.
their quarterback. They're bringing in Mendoza from Cal. Their non-conference slate is like squishy soft, but after that, I mean, their Big Ten, it's like horrible. But I mean, their Big Ten play. I mean, they start Illinois again. We just talked about that. That could be a loss right off the bat. Iowa. I mean, that's going to be a really tricky one. Like we know how good Iowa can be. Oregon on the road, Penn State on the road. That's probably going to be a loss. Like these are teams like Indiana might lose. They might be more competitive than we've seen them like in the past, but they're still probably going to be losses. There's probably at least 3 to 4 losses on the schedule, if they're not careful. So I mean, bowl team, yes, like a good team, yes, but I don't really see them running it back and making it back to the playoff because they're
But
losing.
I feel like you have to put them in this spot because they made the playoff last year.
Yeah,
That's why you have to put them here. But honestly, I don't see it.
yeah, and they'll still be like a decent team and everything, like a bowl team. But yeah, again, like they're probably gonna end up losing this year to Oregon, Penn State on both on the road, Illinois. I mean, maybe even Iowa. Like I don't know. That's gonna be like a matchup game. So yeah. I mean, I don't know. Wisconsin. Like there's some. Yeah, it might be. I think they take a step back because they lose a lot, and their schedule is also like a bit tougher. Last year they kind of only had one tough game that they lost to Ohio State, and then they lost to Notre Dame. I guess another team that's also starting the season ranked in the AP poll that might have taken a step back is or not, no, actually taking a step forward this year, or is expected to take a step forward too, is Michigan, because last year they had a really like a tough season. They went 6-6 or 7-5, something like that, but they ended up finishing really strong. I mean, they obviously beat Ohio State, who won the national championship, and that was a really weird game. I don't know how on earth they pulled it off, because I think Ohio State was too concerned with like running the ball and trying to prove that they were tougher or something like that, and completely played it right into Michigan's trap. Alabama ended up making so many mistakes. They also like kind of did the same thing. So Michigan actually finished the season 8-5 in a pretty down year for their standards. They, obviously lost.
They still knocked off Alabama and Ohio State, which
Yeah,
is
two of
like,
the biggest powers. So
you're 8-5, and you win the two biggest games on your schedule. It's like it
yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
and
It
they found
doesn't.
enough wins on the schedule to you still go bowling, and I mean, yeah, even in down year where they're like Davis Warren was just not a good quarterback for them. Like, I mean, he was like barely like a game manager, like if that. Like, now they bring in Bryce Underwood at quarterback, who's going to be able to throw the ball. I mean, obviously the NCAA ruling's pretty light on them. They're not going to get banned from the postseason or anything like that. They also, I just saw their 5-star running back, I think top of 2026 class committed, Savion Hider is his name. So I guess that's going to come in next year. But yeah, so that's pretty big news. But I mean, in terms of this year, I think Michigan definitely takes a step forward. I think they live up to their preseason ranking. Like, do they make the playoff? I don't know. I think they might be in a conversation. They probably fall a bit short, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, like, you think Ohio State would be a loss, like, but given the way the series has gone, like, I really don't know what to expect. And on top of that, Michigan's better than they were last year. Ohio State might be like a slight step worse. So, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan makes it 5 straight this time. Um, Other than that, I mean, Oklahoma's on the schedule. That's a big one. USC. I don't know. It's a little bit weird, but like they don't really play like Penn State either. So like I don't know. It could be a sneaky team, but I mean, are they like really better than like an Illinois or Indiana? Like I don't think so. I don't think they're really going to be like the top dogs, but I think they could be second tier of the conference.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing to like to debate that really. I mean, like you
Even
don't
in a
want to
off
put them
year,
at the
like
top. You
they
don't
were
want to put them at
pretty.
the top of the conference because of their five losses last year.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to knock them off because of who they beat last year. So
Even in
like,
a down year, and now they add someone so much better at quarterback, and yeah, I mean, like it's hard to really take them out of that second tier because I mean, like I mean, yeah, expectations are they beat Ohio State. They probably beat like some of these other teams that they might have lost to last year. They don't really play that tough of a schedule either. So I mean, it could be a good year for them. Like I don't know what that looks like, but yeah, I mean, I think they're a step out of that top ring, but like definitely in that second tier. I mean, I think they probably are going to be able to keep their ranking around where it is. I don't really see them making the playoff. Like I feel like they're like one step behind, maybe like in Illinois, because I feel like Illinois is going to like really be like on the verge of that playoff. I feel like Michigan might lose a couple and fall out of that just a little bit, but it could be wrong. I don't know. Well, I feel like they're like an 8-4, 9-3 team that gets like one of those good bowls, but they're not like a playoff team. So we'll see. I mean, maybe they do make it and surprise people, but I don't really see that them doing that exactly. I guess.
I mean, like you said, I don't even know if there's really much else to say here.
Yeah,
They're not there. They're
they're
not.
not.
They're
They
not.
shouldn't be there, but like
You
they
never
win a
know
few.
with a team as talent loaded as Michigan usually is. But out of all the evidence we have to look at right now, they're just not there yet.
Yeah, I don't.
They're
I
not
don't
there.
think they are. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they. It's weird. They might beat like an Ohio State, but they also might lose to like Washington or Wisconsin, or they're like in that middle tier, like where they're good but not great. But speaking of like a team that's like around that level, like I feel like Iowa's in a really weird spot because they're like probably the next level of like that good but not great, where they're like kind of like right below like a team like Michigan. They're not really ranked, but they might flirt with it. Like they're still better than they've still been like a step up from teams like my next tier here. I think I'd probably put USC in this tier with Iowa too because they're probably like one step below those other guys, but then like above the next tier where Rutgers is and like where Washington and Minnesota are, and like I still feel like as much as I hate to say it, like Iowa's a step better than at least expectations wise is usually a step better than Washington and Mini, and like I don't know. I don't know if that has to affect. It's going to affect our outcome, but how good are they going to be? Because it feels like Iowa's kind of stuck in the mud. Like every once in a while they have like a good year and they like they win the Big Ten West, and then the next year it's like they take a step back and they're kind of just like hovering in that spot because their defense is really good and their offense is not great. But then this year they had a transfer quarterback, so it might be better. Like they were like I don't know. I don't really know what to expect, but I feel like it's going to be more of the same. Last year they went 8-5. This year, it's probably going to be something similar. We're probably going to be favored in that Rutgers game. That's kind of a toss-up one. Iowa State as well, and then they play like some of their toughest competition, like Penn State at home, which could kind of make things interesting. Same thing with Oregon. I don't know. I mean, like, maybe this is a year they like go big. Maybe this is a year they don't. But it feels like they're kind of capped. It feels like even in a good year, they're not really going to make the playoff. They might win the Big Ten West, but there is no Big Ten West anymore. And in a bad year, they're kind of like 8-5, and then they're like, like a weird team. Like I don't really know what to make of them, but I think the good news for them is they're getting Mark Gronowski in from South Dakota State, and their passing offense might look better. So they do slightly better than usual. I don't know.
Isn't Cade McNamara still the starter though?
No, I think they moved on from him, or he graduated or something like that.
I don't
Or
know if he graduated because
no, he transferred to East Tennessee because they're bringing in this guy.
but he left.
Yeah, I actually did not know.
Where
But
is he?
you went to FCS East Tennessee State. Because remember, McNamara was like not he was not good for them. Like he was not like the Iowa offense was still the Iowa offense because like he was there. Like
Well,
it's
like you got to think about it. I mean, he started out at Michigan, went
yeah.
to Iowa, and now it's at East Tennessee State.
He wasn't really helped. I know it's just like going downhill. Like yeah, I mean he was pretty good, and then yeah, I mean it's just gone downhill. And I mean if you're like yeah, he wasn't really able to turn things around for the Hawkeyes at quarterback, and now he's out. So I mean, for their sake, I hope Gronowski is gonna like be good for them, and I think he will be. He was from South Dakota State, one of the top FCS quarterbacks in the game. Um, I don't know. I feel like Rutgers, Iowa might have a different flavor this year because both of these teams are like suddenly like have receivers that are decent. They have a good quarterback. Like we might see like I don't want to say like a shootout because I know these defenses are both very strong, but we might see like some more scoring. It might be like 27-24, 30-27. Like it's going to be an interesting season for these two teams in particular.
All right, now hear me out. What about Rutgers 70, Iowa nothing?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Oh man, I really want Rutgers to be Iowa. Like even if they like lose to Minnesota and Washington, which they probably wouldn't in that case, but even then, like I feel like that would be the one to get. It's also surprisingly going to be the hardest one, or maybe the second hardest one, because Washington improved their roster like a heck of a lot. I feel like they're going to be better than they were last year. That's going to be a tough one. USC, I think they're going to be better. I mean, they're always like kind of like a decent team. Like I think they're probably going to take a step up. Minnesota, new quarterback, that might be one Rutgers can get, but they're also like they were a sneaky good team last year. I think they beat Illinois. They almost beat Penn State. They're probably better than their record indicated because they lost a couple unexpected ones. But I think Rutgers too. Like I mean, these are all teams that are like on the rise, but they're not quite there yet. So I mean, you can kind of like bunch them up in the same group. For even like Wisconsin and Nebraska too. Like they're kind of like teams that should be bowling, but they need a few breaks to really like make it up to that next level. I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then yeah, I mean they're all kind of like in the same group. Iowa, USC, I think are probably the top end of that. I think Washington, I think it's going to be closer to the top end of that too. I think they have a lot to say. Their quarterback is like this year is supposed to be really really good. So I think Rutgers might have a tough time with that one. But I mean, I feel like the Scarlet Knights are in this tier too with the way they've been building up and their transfer ads, everything. I think the tough schedule obviously hurts them a little bit, but I think Iowa, USC, Washington's probably top half of that group. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Nebraska is probably the bottom end of that group. They're all probably going to end up being in that bowl conversation, like a team that can make some noise. The teams that I don't really see in that group are like teams like UCLA. I feel like they might be out of the mix a little bit, but they're also bringing in Nico Amilava.
I
Maryland,
don't
I
think
think,
that's going to affect anything.
yeah, I think they're still just not really that great. Maryland, they were not really a great team last year. They've lost a lot of their top talent to the NFL, which makes me
It's
a little bit
also like,
worried.
did anyone else like? I don't like how a lot of like the Big Ten, a lot of like Big Ten people seem to have brushed this off about Maryland. Mike Loxley admitted to losing his locker room.
Yeah,
As
on
far
the
as I'm
BT, I
concerned,
saw
when you
that.
lose your
I was
locker
watching
room, you're
that
done.
all day. But I
Yeah.
think he said this year, like they're it's a different group, so like he has this year's group intact, I guess.
Well,
But
but here's the thing: when Pat Hobbs fired Chris Ash, right? The main reason why he fired Chris Ash is that he said, and I quote, Ash lost the locker room. And the fact that he went in front of the Big Ten media and said, yeah, last year I lost my locker room. If I was a Maryland official, goodbye, you're fired.
yeah,
Like if you are admitting to losing your locker room?
I know.
Where your
You hear
players
that way,
aren't
go ahead and
listening
say
to
that.
you anymore? Because that's what losing the locker room means to me. Where people don't respect the coach, they're not listening anymore. They're not trying their hardest. If I'm a Maryland official, you're done. You need to go. Goodbye. Because I don't know if he like if since he admitted to it, I highly doubt that he truly lost his locker room because he wouldn't admit to that.
Yeah.
But if he actually did, that would put him under a severe microscope where if he doesn't win this season or at least make a bowl game, he's fired. Because
Yeah. He had
that's
like a, yeah, that's true.
something I maybe I'm reading too much into this, but
Maybe.
having a
I don't know.
private talk with former Rutgers athletic director Pat Hobbs, having a talk with him, and having him getting a chance to talk to him about all that stuff, him admitting to losing his locker room it's a death sentence. It's a death sentence.
Yeah. I don't know. My concern's more so on like they were already bad. Their defense was horrendous, even worse than their offense, who now loses top two receivers, their top running back. Like where is their wins gonna like come from? That like who's the talent on this team? Like their quarterback is transferring in, so they couldn't even keep that. Like they couldn't even keep their that much of like talent together on their roster. Like the only good thing about them is there's no Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon on the schedule, but oh man, it's gonna be a tough year. I mean, like unless like something comes together that like people aren't seeing, like I mean, it's yeah, it's just not. They'll be lucky to like go 4-8, like the way I
You
see
know
it.
the
Like
crazy part to me is they have 2 5 stars on the roster.
oh yeah, that guy
Two
from
former 5 stars.
yeah.
Why?
Does that like Zion like Ely guy come in this year?
Yeah.
Or is it the number one recruit from? Oh, that's it. Yeah, see, that's like a big piece over there. Yeah, well, maybe that might help. They have to get a pass rush. I was doing their little their preview piece, and that's something that they need. Their back end of the defense is kind of like okay. They're gonna need a lot of guys to step up. Their schedule's soft enough where they could probably find a way to steal some wins and maybe become bowl eligible, but it's a big maybe because like I just don't know what kind of talent we're talking about on this team. If they can even beat like a Rutgers level or Michigan State level team is at the really like kind of a big question mark in my opinion. And if they can't really do that, like they're kind of lost. So Northwestern kind of same thing. Like they kind of had a good season. Same thing with Maryland. They had good seasons a few years ago. I feel like they've taken a little step back. Northwestern wasn't great last year. I don't really see anything that's going to change that. Purdue was just god awful, but they're bringing a lot of portal ads, so they might be better than they were last year. Enough to really make a bowl? I don't think so. Michigan State also like again like where are they going with this? Like they were decent a few years ago. They were really really bad last year. Like Rutgers like embarrassed them. They barely even beat the teams in their non-conference like schedule. I mean like yeah I don't know. I mean their quarterback I think they bring in someone new this year. So I guess Noah Kim wasn't really good enough, so he transferred to like I think the Max. So I mean I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's just like it just feels like these teams are kind of lost in the sauce. Like it's they might make a bowl, they might not. Nobody really knows. They're just not really supposed to be good. There's like no hype on them. So like I don't know. Like it's like one of those. It's like one of those things. I guess. Like I think Aiden Childs is going to be back under center. So yeah, they might make a bowl. They might fall short. Who knows? Maryland, Michigan State might be for a bowl. We don't know, but like none of these teams are going to be big players at the end of the season or anything. So like it doesn't really seem to matter too much.
Nope.
So yeah, I
AT
guess like
isn't making anything.
yeah, I mean if you're not really in bowl contention, then it kind of just doesn't really count at that point as far as
I
we're
was gonna say
concerned.
the only team that can maybe punch above that weight class is UCLA, but everybody
Maybe
else,
UCLA with that talent, yeah. Everyone else probably not. So no, it doesn't mean they can beat non-conference teams and maybe pick off a few in the Big Ten, sure. But like like how many? So there's definitely like a low ceiling and probably also a low floor on these squads. So that being said, I mean I think Purdue versus Ball State might be like another interesting one to watch just because Purdue might get off to 2-0 start and a 0-10 finish. So, but anyway, I guess that's pretty much the Big Ten in a nutshell. Did want to also talk about some of these other conferences. Maybe a little bit shorter, hopefully. Maybe not as big of a deep dive, but definitely want to talk about them. Moving on to the SEC. I feel like there's really two national championship contenders, like maybe three. I feel like two of them are above everyone else. Georgia obviously brings back. I feel like they've kind of taken over that class of the SEC model or mantle in terms of. I mean, recruiting also like play on the field. They won like two championships. Then they took a step back. Gunnar Stockton leading this team. I don't know. A lot of people think it might be a down year for the Dogs, but like I still think they'll be like pretty good. I mean, I feel like they also have to, they might have to step it up a little bit. They might have to beat like an Alabama, but they're like still kind of in that mix. Like I think they'll still be pretty good. I don't know. I don't see them as good as Texas though. I think Texas is like a legit national championship contender in terms of like what we already talked about, what they bring back, their quarterback situation. I feel like they've been on the cusp of it for a couple years. I think they're going to be the team to beat in the SEC. Georgia might be like just like a step behind, but the two of them also play each other this season. Alabama also plays Georgia. Georgia has to get over the Bama hump. I feel like they've lost a lot to Alabama. Bama themselves, they're sitting at 8 in the poll. I don't know. I mean, they missed the playoff. I feel like they're a step under these two teams. They might be able to get into the playoff this year. I don't really see them making a lot of noise. I don't think they're as good as these like elite programs, but they're still probably like best of the rest, I guess I would say.
I mean, like I just know that in my heart that the SEC isn't winning anything this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a little bit of a bias. Maybe that's a little bit
I think
of
the
a.
one team that can is Texas. Other than that, I don't think really anybody has a shot. I think Alabama's not good enough. I think Georgia, like they got humiliated against Notre Dame last season, which was like really great to see.
Well, I
Like,
don't know about humiliated. That was a decent game.
yeah, I guess. I mean, well, not humiliated. They got exposed, I guess, for like what they were. But I still feel like they're like still upper tier, and Bama's like those two teams might have something to say at the end of it. But I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Texas is probably the only one who can maybe beat like a really good Big Ten team. Maybe like I feel like Georgia's not quite there. I don't feel like Alabama's quite there this year, even if they make the playoff. Which again, it's that's not any guarantee either. But those are definitely like I think those are my top three. Like I would say like Texas and UGA. I think is like one step above. Depending on how good Gunnar Stockton is, they'll probably quietly go 10-2 this year. Texas might go 11-1, maybe 12-0, depending on how that Ohio State game goes. Um, I think Alabama maybe goes 10-2. Like I think I think those are like going to be the top three. But I feel like our middle tier is going to be like where this like SEC conversation gets pretty interesting. Like who else can make the playoff for the first time? Because I feel like there's a lot of like pretty good teams in there that are like lurking, ready to take the next step.
Yeah, the Gators, the Tigers, the
Yeah,
Gamecocks, they're all like
they're all like
to be fair to me, those are all teams that are like circling the wagon. I
yeah,
mean, like
they're right on
I'm
that
thinking like a
doorstep.
9-3. Like when I hear those teams, I hear 9-3.
That's what
Like,
yeah,
you
me
know,
too. Yeah. Again, we
like
talked about like the opener against Clemson, like with LSU. That's I don't know. I feel like history would say that that's a game they probably lose again, and then they end up going 9-3 and they lose to Alabama, and then it's like kind of your same old season. And then Florida hasn't really been there, but they have a really good quarterback that might take them to the next level. I don't know. The Florida Miami game is another one to watch in Week 4. That could be a lot of fun. Another in-state clash. South Carolina, that's another one that's really interesting. I mean, that's like an Illinois level sleeper. Like that's a team that could make some noise. They've never really been like among the SEC's elite or even semi-elite. But I mean, fans are like excited. I mean, Lenore Sellers looks really good. Their defensive edge, Dylan Stewart, is really solid. I mean, they are like right on the cusp of it. It's very exciting. Thinking about what they could do this year. I mean, they beat Clemson last season. I think they're going to be underdogs this time. They have a chance of winning that game. They have a chance of beating Alabama. That's a home game. LSU has always given them a tough time, so maybe they don't win that. But I feel like a lot of these other ones, they maybe win. Virginia Tech, their opener, nationally televised, could win. Missouri could win. They probably beat teams like Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Like those are kind of in the middle. Oklahoma. Maybe LSU, Ole Miss, or like some tough ones that the teams kind of had problems with in the past. Alabama, it's a big game. I feel like this could be a 9-3 team. Like this could be a pretty good team. Like, maybe they pick off one of those three. I feel like that's a big stretch. LSU, Alabama, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. Like, if they could win, like, one of those bigger matchups there, and then, you end the season with A&M, Coastal Carolina will probably be like an easier one for them. And then Clemson, who's going to be like the class of the ACC. We talked about that. If they can get a win against them too, like, I mean, this could be a 10-2 team. Like, it's about, can they take the next step? Because I mean, I feel like they're right on that verge of like, there were Illinois as in the Big Ten. Basically, they're like ready to knock on that door and make the playoff. It's just about, can they, will they, or are they going? They lost by 2 points to Alabama last year. Can they take that? They beat Clemson last year. Can they take that next step? Because this is a really fun team. I feel like South Carolina is like, they're kind of like Missouri, but Missouri's kind of fallen out of that a little bit. But they're kind of like, somehow, even in the SEC, like some of these teams get disrespected, and I feel like South Carolina is like one of them, and I feel like they're ready to like take that next step. So if they can go out there and beat like some of the teams that they haven't beaten in the past, that they've been knocking on that door, I mean, I think they could sneak into the playoff. It's a fun team. I think they're going to be pretty good. It's just about how good, I guess, is the question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can kind of say
I
that.
mean,
You kind of say that about like a lot of these teams too. Like Florida, same thing with Lagway. Like, can LSU, can they put it together? Obviously, like there's a lot of Rutgers LSU ties now. I guess we've been talking about Kelly Zinn and whatnot. But and then I guess other than that, the SEC has got teams like Texas A&M who are like perennially like 8-4. Like that's their thing. Can they take the next step? They've been in the motion. They've been kind of. That's also like a fun one because they have like the war, one of their, like the 12th man stuff going on. Like they've always been like another frisky team, kind of like South Carolina is like maybe could beat like a good team once in a while, but oftentimes doesn't. Can they like take that next step this year? I mean, I don't know. Maybe not.
Hullabaloo, connect,
But
connect. Hullabaloo, connect, connect. That's remember when Pat McAfee gets the whole Texas A&M crowd?
juice.
No, you don't remember that?
No, I'm thinking of like well, they come out to Power, like that's what I remember, and they have like the midnight yell or whatever that is. They have like some fun traditions there, and
Yeah.
yeah, South Carolina Sandstorm. I'm thinking of like when Pat McAfee riled up all the Georgia fans, but then like and then said like the Tide were gonna win.
Bring me
Like,
Alabama to bring
yeah, he
Alabama.
does like the whole song, and then he's like, "Give me Alabama," and then like, oh, that
Well,
was
that's
just
what he did with the Texas A&M fans too. He started singing their song, and then I think he said
pick
"Go
Notre
Texas"
Dame.
after that.
Oh yeah, maybe. I think that's what it was. And Texas A&M plays Notre Dame early. They have the return trip after Notre Dame beat them last season. That was one of the best openers of last season, actually. Now that I remember, that was a very anticipated game at Kyle Field. They play the Longhorns. I'm so glad that rivalry game is back, like Texas A&M versus Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. So yeah, another like team. I feel like LSU, Florida, South Carolina are the hopefuls this year. And Missouri, I think they've taken a step back. They're like a team that can kind of be competitive. They're another one of those like disrespected, underrated like type teams like South Carolina is. Um, yeah, I mean there's a lot of there's like teams like that. Tennessee also building on, they made the playoff last year. They don't have Nico Milava anymore. I don't know. I mean, they were like pretty good, but they weren't like great last year. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they also have something to say about all of this. Or maybe they,
Tennessee.
yeah, I feel like they take a step back from where they were though, like
Well, they
season.
made the playoffs and then got drummed into.
Yeah, a
They
lot of
got
people are
curb
thinking like
stomped.
a lot of people are thinking Tennessee had what it took to knock off like Ohio State, because Ohio State was coming off that Michigan loss, and Tennessee is supposed to be a better team. And people, Tennessee, so many fans came up for that game from Tennessee to Ohio State. Like half the stadium was like orange, and a lot of
I
people
don't
thought
know
that,
about that. Come on now.
maybe not half the
Half the
stadium,
stadium
but
was orange. Yeah, no.
no,
Maybe
maybe
like
not.
half an hour before kickoff, but you best believe that stadium was red when they.
It
I
was
don't.
red, but there was a lot of like a big Tennessee contingent. There was a lot of people saying they're going to take. There was a lot of orange. They were playing
Well,
their fight song. They
no.
lost.
See, like first of all, that's what SEC fans do. And they love to do that. They love to show up to the stadium 45 minutes before kickoff and then claim that they took it over. You didn't take over anything, okay? This is the North. When we
Yeah,
get to the stadium, it's usually about 10 minutes to
yeah,
watch all the intro stuff. We're
yeah,
not sitting in the stands for 30 minutes doing nothing.
right,
Like, come on now. You're
yeah,
not doing anything sitting 30 minutes in the stands.
yeah,
I don't get that at all. But like you were saying, like I saw like several clips like 45 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah, where
We
they're
took
singing
over
like
your
Rocky Top.
stadium. We're all
I remember
here.
there was like a huge push where they were like trying to buy tickets, and then I saw it, but by the end of the game, that all kind of filtered out because Ohio State was
I was
way
going to say, by the end of the game, that stadium was all red.
yeah, and Scarlet too because they're also Ohio. That was one of their few times where Ohio State got to have a night game because big noon, like all of their good games are going to be at noon again because of like Fox. So that playoff game was a lot of fun because I mean they got to Scarlet the shoe and it was a night game and so I mean yeah they ended up coming back to life after Michigan and just that was fun. But I guess my point with Tennessee, they're also like a team that kind of like needs to take the next step because they're kind of like a little bit short. Like they did beat Alabama, to be fair, last year, although Alabama wasn't quite as good. Georgia, that's a big matchup. I mean, I feel like even in the really good years, they like fell short to some of the top teams, but they beat others. I don't know. I mean, maybe they take the next step. Maybe they take a step back. I don't know. I mean, it's they have a new quarterback. Like, I feel like there's just so many teams in this SEC that are like kind of middle. Like we have the top three, like we mentioned, and then there's like all these hopefuls. Like which ones are going to get in? Like you have LSU, you have Florida, South Carolina, A&M. There's only room for like maybe two or three more of these. Like there's not room for like 7 middle tier teams to make the playoff. Like it's just not happening. So we need the 28 team playoff for that, that kind of stuff to happen. So which one of these 2 or 3 teams can make the playoff? Or which 2 or 3? I don't know. It's probably not going to be Tennessee. It might be 10. I don't know. I'm looking at LSU, Florida, and South Carolina as the playoff hopefuls. I'm looking at the next tier to be A&M, Mizzou, Tennessee. Maybe something breaks right, and then after that, it's kind of like we got pretenders like Auburn doesn't seem to really go anywhere ever. Oklahoma, they've taken a big step back. They're kind of like very average, although they also did beat Alabama. Vanderbilt, which is another team that I wanted to talk about because they beat Alabama. But I feel like they're still like, they still kind of have to put it together more consistently. They're kind of like, they can make a bowl, but I don't really see them being truly competitive. They're going to be frisky. They're going to be fun, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're beating Alabama on the road again. They've gone from like the bottom tier to like the tier above that, but like, can they really do more than that? Or is it kind of just like they might have one upset and be done?
We'll see.
We'll see. But I mean, they're a fun team. Diego Pavia, they really put themselves on the map. But I mean, from where they were to being like respectable now, it's kind of like the transition Rutgers made. And Arkansas, that's another maybe even better because they've upset some pretty good teams. And Arkansas is another team that's kind of like doesn't really go anywhere, and it's just kind of like they pretend in the non-conference. That's kind of like the same story like year in year out. And they did beat Tennessee. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, all these teams are just kind of mid, and then below them we have like teams like Kentucky last year who went 4-8. Although this is what I was saying. They beat Ohio pretty good. They beat Ole Miss. They got an upset win over them. They almost beat Georgia too. Kentucky. So maybe they're not quite as bad as people thought they were, but they had their moments last season, like beating Ohio 41-6, top MAC team, and then beating Ole Miss on the road, ranked upset, and then Georgia almost beating them, but they just could never really string any consistency together. I mean, other than the games they should have won, like they completely got outmatched. They're like bottom of the conference. A lot of people think Toledo might have a chance to upset them week 1, which I think would be really interesting, but I don't really see them being a contender at all. They're always like due for that like one like surprise though, which just like makes them a really fun and interesting team. Like so and then Mississippi State was just the bottom of the barrel last year. They actually lost to Toledo last year. They were like 2-10, 0-8 in the SEC. They just really weren't good. I mean, I think their 2 wins came against like lower tier teams again, like UMass and their FCS opponent. But the surprising part about them was, I mean, they almost beat Arizona State to win the Big 12, and there's a rematch in Starkville this season, so a lot of people have that as like a sneaky upset pick, which is weird to think about.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a sneaky upset. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe they strung together a good game against Arizona State last year. Don't think that's gonna be an upset this year.
Probably not. I think they get off the ground like good again because Southern Miss is not a good team. Alcorn State's an FCS team. Northern Illinois is like they did beat the other Notre Dame, but I don't know. Maybe that could be an upset, honestly. But yeah, they'll probably start 3-1, but then I don't think they're gonna make any noise in the SEC like at all. Like they're one of the worst. But there's a lot of men in the SEC, some good teams. Yeah, it's an interesting conference. I guess moving on now over to the ACC. I think this is really a two-team race because I think Clemson, like the national championship expectations are high. I would argue a little too high. I don't. Again, it's like a Penn State situation where it's like they need to prove it a little bit, especially in the playoff. Again, this LSU opener is going to do a lot for me in terms of where I think they really are. But they should be ACC favorites. I don't think, I mean, especially with all the returning talent and how weak the ACC is, I really don't think anyone's beating them. Maybe Miami. I mean, depending on how Carson Beck does. But I feel like Miami's also a little overhyped. Like I feel like for some reason things fall apart for them more often than they work out. Like even with Cam Ward last year, they ended up missing the playoff. They almost lost to Virginia Tech. Like I don't know, but I still feel like both of those are like the top two. I feel like Miami might at the end of the day be a pretender, and Clemson might be like the real contender. But those two are like in the ACC going to be the top two teams, and probably the only two that are going to be like ranked for the entire season.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. I don't think I buy into the Clemson hype just yet, but we'll have to see that LSU game. And
Yeah.
Miami, I think they're going to make the college football playoff, but I think they're going to sneak their way in rather than establish themselves as a true contender.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're just I don't know how good Carson. I mean, I guess Carson Beck's pretty decent. I don't know. I feel like they have like pretender written all over them, all over them. Like I feel like they'll make it. They'll probably do well in the ACC, but then I don't know. I don't really think they have what it takes. Clemson might, but again, like can they beat like teams like Ohio State, Penn State, like the top when it really counts? Like it's a good question, but I think at least this year they could be competitive in that bunch. I think that they have enough, to make some noise. Really
Yeah.
compete. So yeah, I think
The funny thing about the ACC is that they seem to be the heaviest in the ACC. Well, obviously in the ACC, but they seem to be the heaviest in the second tier, more heavier than all the other conferences, really, when it comes
Yeah,
to that second tier. Because
yeah,
most other conferences have three teams in that second tier, but the ACC has four, and
yeah. They
those
have
being Duke,
four,
SMU, Georgia Tech, Louisville, who have
right,
all shown flashes and have set themselves apart as like talented programs. I mean, SMU made the playoffs last year.
right.
Duke had 9 wins. Georgia Tech had that classic against Georgia where they took
Oh
them
my God,
who
man.
knows how many overtimes.
They're like
And
8
then,
overtimes or something like that.
Louisville, who always seems to they seem to win the ACC when the ACC is having a bad year. They seem to
Yeah,
make the ACC championship when the ACC is weak. So it's like they're the heaviest of that second tier out of all the other conferences. Whether that second tier is comparable to the other conferences' third tier,
I think something like it might be something similar. They're probably like where that middle tier of the Big Ten is. Like they're kind of risky, but not really there. Like it's kind of like that. But they probably get more like they probably end up with a slightly better record because of like where their conference is. It's probably like where that third tier of the Big Ten and third tier of the SEC is in terms of talent level.
yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, like I said, I feel like Clemson might have something to say. Like, I think this year they're good enough to compete with the higher end of the SEC and Big Ten. Most years, probably not. Miami, I think, is a pretender. The contenders, I think Duke upgraded at quarterback with Darian Mensah. They were pretty good. They're sneaky good. SMU, following up their 11-3 playoff season. I mean, can they be back? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. There's like kind of a lot going on there. Georgia Tech, I mean, I think they're due for a big jump. I mean, they have Haynes King coming back. They showed flashes, but they were still very inconsistent. They beat Miami. They had like some good wins, some bad losses. Like they were like kind of all over the place, but their talent is like they also have Vanderbilt in the bowl. Their talent, I think, shows that they might be upper tier. The way the way they played Georgia last season, I think was pretty inspiring. Stuff like that. So I mean, I think they're right on the verge of like making a jump up to the next level. They just have to put it together more consistently. And then finally, I mean, Louisville. Yeah, Louisville's been good for like several years. They've been like in the ACC championship conversation. They've been, I think, runners up a few times. I don't think they outright won it, but I mean, they're interesting. And then that next tier, the third tier for them, I mean, it's kind of crowded because they have UNC first year under Belichick. Florida State should be there after their horrible year last year. I'm not going to project anything better than that after like what I saw last year. Pitt, I think, well, they started 7-0 and then they went 0-6, including like a bowl loss to Toledo. So that was horrible finish for them. Virginia Tech, that's a team that hasn't, they've kind of struggled in the toss-up games. They've lost a lot, including non-conference. Like Rutgers has beat them, Vanderbilt. Not even like the best of the best non-conference. They've just kind of struggled to get off the ground running, and that's usually amounted to a 6-6 season because luckily for them, they're in the ACC and not the Big Ten. NC State has quietly been above average the last few years. Syracuse, they went 10-3 last season, but without McCord, I don't think they're going to have quite the same season this year. So I think that's another middle of the pack team this season as well. So those are the middle tier teams that are like kind of bowl should be bowling teams, or at least in the conversation. Yeah. So I mean, other than that, the bottom tier, Stanford wasn't great. They had their moments last year. Wake Forest has not really been great for a few years. Virginia has been pretty bad, to be completely honest with you. And Cal, like I don't know, they kind of struggled. I think they also lose their quarterback. They haven't really been good. In the Pac-12 schools and the ACC have just really not really been players so far. SMU's been pretty good as a newcomer, but yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about everybody's favorite conference.
The Pac-12, the
No,
Pac-2.
the Big 12.
Oh, the Big 12. Yeah, so this is a very interesting one, actually.
I just wanted to point this out, and I quote for all the viewers out there right now on our outline, put by Arnav at the bottom of our Big 12 section. He goes, "I don't know what the heck is going on in this conference."
Yeah, it's like really like cloudy. Like I mean, I follow college football like a lot. The Big Ten is pretty clear. The SEC is clear. The ACC, like I kind of know what's going on. The Big 12, like I barely have notes on like this conference, but we'll start where like what we do know. Like we talked about Farmageddon in the beginning of this episode. That might be like a showing for top teams in the conference. Like Kansas State is ranked. Like we saw how good they were against against Rutgers, which again shows the relativity of all of this. But their
they
offense
barely
looked
beat
pretty.
Rutgers too, which is like
exactly. I feel like the top the Big 12 is like maybe like second to third tier in the Big 10. Like if that
it's kind of weird to say, but like.
Yeah.
Top of the Big 12 is like Rutgers tier in the Big 10.
Which is like third tier, like maybe even is it third tier? Like might even be, yeah, I guess third tier. We have it as third tier. It's in that same tier with Iowa, USC. It's like a crowded tier that could probably be divided into like two. So it's like third or fourth tier in the Big 10, which is like really weird. And then same thing with Iowa State. I mean, they beat Iowa. That's also like kind of a team that's like kind of like third tier, like ish. So I guess that just shows where the Big 12 really is as a conference. But I mean, they're better teams like Kansas State, a good offense. I think Avery Johnson's a really good quarterback, dual threat. Dylan Edwards, I feel like we talked about this in the beginning, a really good rusher. I feel like they have some nice pieces going for them. Iowa State too. Can they beat Iowa? I mean, that's going to be a really exciting game to see the Cyhawk. I mean, those are like some of the best. And then Arizona State, like I think they were picked last year. They won the conference, so that I think they're going to be in play, even losing Scadaboo and people like that. I don't exactly know what's what their situation is, but I feel like they're going to be among the best of that conference as well. So I mean, like I think those are really the three like players. In this thing, and there's like the middle tier is like very murky because Colorado, they lose Shadur Sanders and they're probably going to take a step back, but they're probably going to be in there. BYU has lost Retzlaff. Utah's taken a step back. I thought they would probably be among the top. And then you have these average teams like
TCU is expected to take a step up from what I hear.
That's
but
what I
all
heard too.
Teams seem to be like almost like exact carbon copies of each other besides TCU and Colorado. I mean, Colorado's, we're expecting them to be good. TCU's expected to be like an 8-win team. Yeah. Everybody else is just like
they're supposed to be decent, I think, TCU. Like I think they're supposed to take a step up, like their quarterback.
I think they're supposed to be like an 8-win team. But all the other teams, like they seem like interchangeable with the 7-6 and 6-6 record.
Like Kansas, Arizona, they're all just like really average. They'll win the 3 non-con, they'll win like 3 in the conference. They're just like beat up on each other. Texas Tech, I think, has high upside, but I heard the recruiting classes have been like really good. Like they signed like some number 1 prospect. I don't think that's
they have oil money, so.
Yeah, exactly. They have oil. They have Texas oil money. I don't know if that's going to hit this season, but last year they almost had a horrible FCS loss to start, but they ended up doing okay. Arizona, I don't really know what to say about them. Like, I mean, that's another team that's just like a big pretender. Like again, like it's just like a really weird
As somebody that
conference.
enjoys East Coast football,
Maybe it's because we
the
don't really
Big
watch a
12
lot of it.
is
Like I don't.
just the Big 12 is just there.
It's just
They're just
yeah, it's not
there.
really even like Pac-12 where it's like Pac-12 after dark, Oregon, Washington, like the way it used to be. Like it's kind of like whatever. It's like middle of the country. The teams aren't all that great.
It's a
The
game
race is
you turn
sometimes
on while the other
competitive.
good games are on
I've
commercial.
never like heard of like anyone who wants to, like what if like really want to watch like the Big 12. Like I mean they have the Fox package, but Fox is also dominated by like the Big 10. Like you hardly ever see like a noon game be like a Big 12 game. Like
When the Big
like
12 used to
I don't
have
know.
Texas and Oklahoma, people
Yeah,
would
those were
turn
like
it
the
on
big
for that.
dogs. Yeah, that
But
was the power end of that. Now it's like those two are gone, and like no one's really like stepped up. And like Arizona State came out of nowhere. But like I said, I think the top three, Arizona State, Iowa State, Kansas State, are the teams to look out for talent wise. Everything else, the next tier is like kind of all these mid teams. Like Colorado, I think is going to take a step back. You got BYU, Utah, TCU. Kansas, the Jayhawks have made solid improvements considering they were used to be one of the laughing stocks of the Power Four. Texas Tech, Arizona, and then the bottom tier, Oklahoma State, kind of a weird one because they started off 3-0, which included wins against South Dakota State, FCS champs. I thought they might have a shot at an upset. Nope. Arkansas they beat, but then when the Big 12 play started, they went 0-9, so they ended up 3-9. Houston, all the good teams from the American have really struggled in the Big 12, which is a little confusing to me too. And like
well,
Houston,
because
UCF,
even though like those were good in the American, the Big 12
yeah,
is still a step up.
that's true. But I thought
You
they would
know,
like. I mean, they're kind of like borderline bowl teams. Like Houston, UCF, Cincy are like kind of the bottom end of this conference, and they're not horrible, but they're also just not good. And
and then West Virginia,
West Virginia is just again like what is West Virginia? They're like very very average. Like I don't even
Big
know.
East
Like
brother,
wait, what? Oh
Big
yeah,
East brother.
our old Big East brother. They've been very like very mid. Like they hardly make bowl games. They're like in that same like tier with like and then Baylor. That's another one that's kind of like middle of the pack that I didn't even write down. But Cincinnati, like West Virginia, knocked those like kind of those teams off. They kind of struggled. They're kind of like a random like a team. Like they obviously there's a lot of hype with them. Like maybe people thought they had a chance to beat Penn State, which obviously that didn't happen. They also lost to Pitt. So it's just, yeah, I mean, it just really wasn't great like for them last year. They still made a bowl, they lost. This year they play Ohio the week after Rutgers does, and that one's actually in Ohio. So that's probably Ohio's, second hope for an upset because there's no chance in how they're going to beat Ohio State. So we'll see. I mean, West Virginia is like a mid team. Yeah, I mean, again, like that bottom tier is just not great because they're barely like contending for bowl eligibility. The middle tier is kind of like murky, like they'll win like 6, 7, 8 games and not really do a lot. The top tier is kind of like okay, but when you put them in the playoff, they're Arizona State was like very close to beating Texas, but usually they're just not really like a big player. Like the top tier, like we said, is probably like equal to like the Big Ten's like third tier, maybe fourth tier teams. Like they're like around where Rutgers and Iowa are, like which is like really weird to think about. But
Yeah,
yeah, but hey, I mean, someone's gonna win that conference. There is some talent at the higher end of it. It's just not like football we usually watch, but I feel like we tried our best to break this one down for you. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the Big 12 for you in a nutshell. I mean, we might have a surprise, like someone that we don't think is gonna win, come out and win it again, like Arizona State. But yeah, like I said in the notes, like I don't know what the heck is going on in this conference. Like I really don't. Like I thought I'd have something better for you, but look at the top three teams. I think Farmageddon in week 0, Kansas State, Iowa State are both ranked. I think that's about as good as that conference is going to give you. Um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those two teams are like either the Big 12 championship game participants or close to it, and those are probably going to be like the cream of the crop this year. So definitely keep an eye out for Farmageddon if you really want to learn about the Big 12 this season because yeah, I mean that's probably what the best is going to be. So like
hmm
that's what I would look after. I'm high on those two teams. I'm high on Arizona State. I would like to be high in Colorado, but they lose a lot. So other than that,
yeah.
it's just kind of like whatever. And then I guess finally, I mean, we could talk about Notre Dame. I mean, they're coming off a national championship appearance. They bring
They'll
in
be in the playoffs. Like I don't know what
yeah,
else there is to
I think
talk
so.
about. They're going to be right up there with everybody else.
They play an independent schedule. So I mean they're kind of a mix of all over the place, but they're better than like most of the teams. Like they'll probably beat even like Miami. They'll probably beat A&M. They'll definitely beat Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State. Like, they might not lose a game. Like, they might lose one, maybe two. Like, they're going to be a playoff team. But then, like, when it's like, the last year they kind of put it together. Like, they went all the way to the national championship, which is something they've struggled with. They kind of made it competitive against Ohio State. Like, they kind of made a comeback. I won't really count it like that because it was like, oh, really late. But, like, I mean, they still competed in that game. Maybe they get back there, maybe they don't. I think they're going to be in the conversation. They should make the 12-team playoff, no question. I don't think they're like as talented as like your top teams this year, like Ohio State, Penn State, Texas, Georgia. Like, I think maybe Georgia. I don't know. They're like a step below. They're probably like, they might be where Clemson is. Like, they might be like, a fringe contender, but like not really like expected to win the whole thing, kind of thing. Is like where I would place them in this.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think they're probably going to take a step back, but I don't think it's going to be very far. And it's going to be interesting to see what Marcus Freeman does for the Irish.
Yeah, I think he's always been a pretty good like coach. Like, I've really liked what he's done with the team.
He's really taken them to another step.
Yeah, like they used to not really be like, and they used to kind of be on the outside looking in of this stuff, and he's like really made them into like a legit contender, and he's motivated. Obviously, that shocking loss to NIU last season, but after that they went all the way. They ran the table. I mean, they won 3 games in the playoff over Indiana, Georgia, Penn State, and then they lose to Ohio State. They almost put together a comeback in that too, which was kind of sneaky of them, but I would say like Texas was the closest to beat Ohio State last year because they were like more in the game the whole time. And then obviously what happened at the 1-yard line was really the big shifter. Notre Dame was kind of a big like a comeback push at the end, but I just don't really think it was like really like threatening in the same way. So I would say not quite, but at the same time, I mean, they still made it to the national championship. They still beat 3 teams. They still had a good showing. They've made themselves like known as like, yeah, we might be independent, but we're not like a fraud team. They used to be kind of like that fraud like Penn State level team where like no one you wouldn't really take them seriously because they get blown out in the playoff. That's not the case anymore. So I mean, I think they'll be like in the midst of things again. Will they win the national championship? Probably not with all the high end talent at the top, but I think they'll be in the mix for it. I think they'll be close. They'll might take a slight step back, but I think they'll definitely be a playoff team again. They might even win a couple games in the playoffs. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to punch their ticket far, but I think they're at least going to be there.
Yeah, like I don't know if they have like what it takes to really beat like the top, especially now that they lost some of their like best, like their quarterback and this and that. So like they might take a slight step back, but I don't know. I mean, they might not. They play Miami. We'll see how the regular season goes. I don't think they're gonna have what it takes to get to the top, but they're gonna be in the mix. And yeah, I mean, I think that's I think 12-team playoff. That's another team it's been really good for Notre Dame because
Yeah,
it's allowed them access. So I mean, they'll be in there. Always a team to watch out for the Fighting Irish. I think that's pretty much going to do it here. Really comprehensive preview of all the major conferences. We spent a lot more time than I thought on like the beginning, which was like week 0, week 1 previews and stuff. But we're going to do next week. I wanted to do a game bite, like a predictions round of this, which I think would be really fun. But at the same time, we got our previews in. We got a lot of good talk. But hey, like I said, we're only doing this once. Might as well make the most of it. So this is our very comprehensive 2025 college football preview and episode 98 of Sports Vibe. In the next episode, we're going to do a mock bracket. But in the meantime, the vibes are always high on Sports Vibe, and we'll see you next time.
see you later, guys.